Right, got back to the desk just by right minute, just a minute away from 5. Oh, yep. I had it open. I just went off to eat something. Mhm. And okay, check on that later. Let's see, nothing missing here. Mm.
And that, kids, is How I Met Your Mother.
No.
Now, you may know I love talking about Kanye West on this channel. One of the greats, never gets into any controversy whatsoever.
Netanyahu.
Now, this story doesn't even involve Kanye West. It's basically just a symptom of him existing in our timeline. So there was this high school graduation, and there was a valedictorian speech, and then a student who was accepting their award gave the beginning quote that Kanye made about a certain Austrian painter.
My biggest inspiration once said, every human being has something of value that they bring to the table.
And then another student clocked that, and then when they went to accept their awards, went up to explain to everyone what he was referencing, and her mic was pretty quickly muted.
Historian Kyler Williams quoted a 2022 interview with Kanye West from Infowars. What Kyler forgot to do was finish the quote. Every human being has brought value that they...
Now, this happened at the Hoggard High School in North Carolina, not to be confused with Hogwarts, also not to be confused with the very briefly lived Mugwarts. I made a joke saying the website died. It's still here. The School of Looksmaxing. The URL is literally mugwarts.net. But they got an article, I'm like, okay, draw eyes, fair enough, height. How do you change your height, bro? Let me put some titanium stilts in my legs when they break my femur, so I can sound like that guy from SCP and the Femur Breaker. So the valedictorian who made the speech was Kyle Hosek, and he gave a quote from someone that he directly said was his biggest inspiration, which was that every human being has something of value and to bring to the table. Now, if you don't know where that quote's from, it's the beginning of what Kanye said on that episode of Alex Jones's Infowars show. Now, Kanye did say that, but the valedictorian didn't actually finish the statement because it ended like this.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially...
And then the other student, Sarah Rudisill, again, she was also graduating, she went up to speak about it, and a mic was cut. So according to local news, Kyle's family put out this really bizarre statement about the speech, so they didn't even try to defend it or say it was about Kanye. They said it was a positive outlook on the future of AI, emphasizing the growing opportunity for all of us to make profound societal achievements in the future. So they somehow basically said, it wasn't about Kanye, but guys, AI though, woo, the wonders of AI, oh my god! So the district superintendent also analysed the speech, and they basically went through the procedures, and they couldn't identify any connections, because again, what he says sounds so generalised, it was just, very ironic that Kanye said the same thing, and then finished it in a very different way.
Especially...
I'm about to level up and you look like just enough XP.
So Sykkuno was under a lot of fire 2 months ago. There were loads of people making videos about it, myself included. But now, after 2 months of pretty much radio silence, he's back. The XP has been gained, and a lot of people do think that this break that he took actually wasn't long enough. So his first stream back was actually about a month and a half after he left, and he said that while he was gone on stream, he was working on himself and repairing the damage that he did to his relationship. If you don't remember, and I don't blame you because something that happened 2 months ago, it's basically 3 years with how fast the internet moves. Sykkuno was basically accused of talking to a lot of women when he was still in a relationship. But not a lot of people really seem to care about that because it made mainstream attention. So most people actually spent their time memeing on him because he just talks like an anime character.
Oh, because you're here.
And there were also messages like him saying that his XP bar was low. Again, I just find it insane that 2 months ago this was just the thing that everyone was talking about, and now most people don't even remember. So basically, he said on stream that he's been working every day to try and make things better. And he's also made a lot of self-improvements. He said that him and his girlfriend who stuck with him are doing a lot better and they're headed in a good direction.
The time I've been gone, I've been working every single day to try and make things better. It hasn't been easy, but I'm glad to share that. Made a lot of improvements, and we can confidently say that we're doing a lot better. We're in a position where we can be happy together, and we're heading in a good direction.
But the reaction that a lot of people gave is they thought that this was really insincere, and the length of the break doesn't actually reflect on someone who's actually remorseful. But again, no one really cared about that. They were still making fun of him for having, that voice.
No, not again. No, you're not. Show why you
Like Jason, they're just absolutely mind-broken over this. Like, when he came back after his break, he didn't completely change his voice and just sound like Corpse. Like, I understand it. He does have a bit of an anime voice. Like,
Oh, maybe not in my heart.
I don't know what you expect here. He's not going to immediately change his voice overnight.
I do think, like...
Bro, is your XP bar not cool enough? Is it not cool enough?
Just stop broken. And then later on, Sykkuno ended up defending his decision to return to streaming, saying that coming back to playing games isn't crazy. He said that there's a lot of people who still believe that he can change, and he's going to choose to listen to those people over the people that hate him.
If I'm forced to choose, right, do I listen to the people that hate me and want me to be gone forever, or do I listen to the people who still believe in me and maybe see potential there?
But then other people weighed in as well. Like, for example, Pokimane, who frequently collaborated with Sykkuno in the past. She actually talked about his return on her own stream, and she said that Sykkuno was gone for a month and a half, saying that she spent longer over situationships and that all he did was post a few sentences and then take a vacation. Again, I don't think the best comparison here is to make it about you. Streamers!
I saw Sykkuno's back after a month.
She wearing a watch? That's a fucking bit.
Month and a half. I spent longer getting over situations. I'm not joking.
I understand. It's a different community entirely. I understand. I would never have a community like that, but it all just feels very performative. So Roblox has done a big oopsie again, as always. You might remember that a while ago, they were one of many companies to roll out facial age checking in order to keep adults and children separated in game. And as you may also know, a lot of these companies that ended up using face scans were so easy to spoof. Like, you had people that were using pretty realistic looking games like Death Stranding. You scan your face IDs, sample bridges, you're good to go. But then it was easy to use like Dr. Breen from Gary's Mods, and then when it would ask you to smile and stuff, people would use like the tool to give him a giant grin, like you're watching a YouTube poop from 2009 or something. Open your mouth, he's got no teeth, man. It's the fact that it works. Now, the example I've shown, these facial ID scans, they're not really that accurate. And even Discord actually got a lot of backlash for announcing their plans to enforce age verification on their platform. So there was a report made on Roblox recently, and one of the main reasons that they're so keen for age verification is because there are so many lawsuits that are being levied against them. Like, there was one example where the FBI found that there was an Australian man who was basically posing as a child in Roblox, doing all sorts of abhorrent things on there. And obviously, because if Roblox has a bad reputation, all the stockholders pull out. Big company make change? Nah. Big company lose money? Okay, make change now. So it seems that what they're trying to do with over 150 federal cases against them, they're trying to quietly move them out of the public eye, basically moving it into closed door arbitration so it doesn't get like any kind of media attention. And in order to do this, they're citing something from their terms of service. You know that thing you get whenever you install a new game and it's like 50,000 paragraphs and it basically just says, yeah, if you don't like the game, we're going to come to your house and kill you. But no, it's like you scroll to the bottom, you press yes. This, in their terms of service, basically says that if you play the game, you have no rights or ability to sue us in court, or at least open court. So arbitration for any lawyer, lawyers, that want to know about it, basically takes place outside of a public courtroom, and it's presided over an arbitrator, not to be confused with the arbiter from the Halo franchise. That being instead of an actual judge or jury. So instead of it being like a huge open case with loads of media coverage, imagine like the courtroom in the second Joker film, even though that film is very mid, it'll just be the involved parties, legal representatives, and then the arbiter. Did I say arbiter or Halo? Just imagine the arbiter from Halo. So, talking about more legal proceedings, recently there was a judge that cancelled an entire trial after learning that lawyers on both sides were using AI. Now, something that creators of AI like to talk about a lot is hallucinations. This is where learning machine models like ChatGPT will generate information that basically came to them in a dream. It is completely made up, but they still present it as facts. And one of these hallucinations that will happen will basically just use completely made up court cases for reference. That's what happens during a case in Mississippi where a Louisiana lawyer sued the city of Aberdeen, Missouri, claiming that he was never paid for his involvement in a solar power development project. So he was being represented by 2 lawyers, and the city itself was also being represented by 2 lawyers. And all 4 lawyers were punished for using AI, citing fake legal cases in the court filings. It just blows my mind. It wasn't one lawyer that was secretly on ChatGPT. They were all cheating. They were all trying to cheat the test, and they all got caught. So the judge wrote that basically all 4 lawyers were in violation of Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, but they certified that the legal cases they had were real, and they weren't. So this is the equivalent of that one guy in the friend group that just makes up a complete lie to act really like cool and chat. But instead of it being that one person, it was everyone in the Discord call trying to one up each other. So lawyers on both sides were barred from working for 2 years, and one of them was fined $2,500 and the other nearly $4,000. Now Ms. Wilson,
So
one of the lawyers
years.
who was punished, told the judge that she was using something called First Drafts, which is apparently an AI-powered program for drafting legal documents, and she used it to generate 2 separate filings that contained 4 just entirely made up and fake cases. They also cited loads of cases that weren't even in Mississippi to begin with, that couldn't even have been applied in court. Your Honor, my defenses, it came to me in a dream. So when she was confronted about it, she said that she was unaware that AI could produce hallucinated cases. What a professional way of saying, I'm a dumbass. I had no idea that AI could get things wrong. No. It's the thing that like does everything. It's perfect. It took my friend's job last week who wanted to be an artist. And the thing is, with this Miss Wilson that I mentioned, the lawyer who's been barred for 2 years, unlucky, this isn't the first time that she's been caught using AI. Apparently she was disciplined for it in a bankruptcy court case back in April. I just have a terrifying idea that you're going to have so many people in professions and they're just not trained for it. They could literally just be laughing because they're using AI to do all the work for them. I mean, as a lawyer, you're literally paid by the hour a lot of money usually to do research to help build up a case. Not just type in AI and be like, did the thing happen in place? Please be honest. Now, if you've ever played Fortnite, or more likely watched streamers play it on the second monitor while you're doing something completely different, you may notice that the game has visualized sound effects. Now, this is a setting, sounds like footsteps, car noises, gunshots. They're all represented with like a ring around the player with their location in the ring corresponding to where the sound is coming from. Now, this was originally meant to help people that are hearing impaired. A lot of games are doing this now to try to be more inclusive because some people they can't hear, they might not be able to see. I'm a good example. As much shit as The Last of Us 2, but I did actually have a feature that you could basically play the entire game if you were blind. The game supported functions where you would hear audio cues. But the thing is, a lot of people that were using this feature weren't really hearing impaired. They were just sweats trying to get advantage of other people. But the problem is now, because of a recent update, a lot of people have been complaining that the changes to the visualized audio effects have made basically everything just significantly worse. I'm not talking about the sweats being able to hear someone 50 kilometers away. More people that are genuinely hearing impaired and their experience with the game has now been ruined. You know, because again, if you're not a sweat and you're genuinely deaf or something, this feature is more than a convenience. It's an accessibility tool. It helps people find the locations of sounds like footsteps, gunfire, so they can actually play the game. And they said that the recent changes have made them operate at a significant disadvantage now. They were unable to rely on subtle audio cues to determine where players were. And there was a lot of people on Reddit who also totally agreed. They were also hearing impaired, and they said themselves that the changes have made the game entirely unplayable. So, Nick A30, master of Fortnite, you think you're the king? I'm the king! Nick A30 is most notably known for setting up these huge lab events where he tries to recreate scenes from Marvel films. Usually one small child gets in the way, and he just immediately bans them. I'm the king! But it seems that he almost broke character and had a major, insane crash out on stream.
Pyro's hard drive got full during the recording, so I'll take it from here. This clip of Nick A30 where he finds a guy in the lobby with a rest right.
That's a rare one.
Then follows him out of the battle bus.
Oh my God!
Lands with him and kills him, taking his rest right.
Oh my God!
This then led to a fallout on Twitter of people pointing out Nick's hypocrisy as he would condemn this behavior if used against him.
Oh my God! Look at all these replies. Like,
Ironically, later that day he died with a rare sprite, had a cry and reported the guy.
Yeah.
Everyone's favourite streamer, the Faithful Chud, also chimed in on the drama as he was very disappointed by his fellow family-friendly streamer.
If this is real, I swear, Nick, you've lost all credibility and respect from the Fortnite community. If this is true, you suck.
He said this is one of the worst things you can do and it probably led to a child crying.
That 8-year-old is probably like, Mom!
In the past, the Faithful Chud has told children on Fortnite they will go to hell.
So look, if you were to die in your sins today, you would be sentenced to hell.
Anyways, we did it.
Eyes are more in a lot of ways the only thing we really have. And Twitter user Anoma_.
But just the volume. We might as well.
Eyes are our most important resource. In a lot of ways, it's the only thing we really have. And Twitter user Anoma_SDL has managed to find a way to save any Splatoon player that plays private battles entire minutes of our lives. Normally, if you're in a private battle lobby and you want to send or accept a friend request, you go to the home menu, come back to the game, and you've been disconnected from the lobby. What's been discovered though, is that the disconnection doesn't happen if you put yourself in the gear menu first.
Until they patch it. Imagine if they patch this out. Just because Nintendo loves being fucking ass.
Use it wisely.
What up? Can we get a free pasta? Can we get a free pasta?
It doesn't exist. And neither does the age of consent.
How? What does it even work?
He's got lost in this, you know.
What up, Seinfeld? What up? Can we get a free Palestine? Can we get a free Palestine? Come on, give us one free Palestine.
It doesn't exist. And neither does the age of consent.
Or
How would this even work?
Not to worry, friendo. I got this. I just crack this open and we are instantly hip deep in Bucko Poon.
How did you get your hands on this?
I don't want to talk about it.
but
She is kind of hot from this angle. Haktua. Please don't ruin the mood.
I have you all right where you deserve to be.
The hell? There's a giant one?
Fascinating. She must represent how many fans lust after the real one.
Better question. Why is she caked up?
Shouldn't you guys ask, how can I talk? I studied at Juilliard. I'm just going to crush you now. I have a better idea. How do you feel about death by snoo-snoo?
Snoo-snoo?
Dude, bugs don't have snoo-snoos.
What do they have? Save us, Hornet-san!
We'll give you pics of Shoma.
But
She's not on any lists, right?
Get good.
Glad we solved that. I think we should go back to normal in a few minutes.
Kaki?
Lucky bastard.
right.
Thank you for watching today's episode. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Also, check out previous episodes, like Love Moss. Once again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day and night. Laters.
Wait, that. Hold on. Useless. He just says useless. Oh. Oh yeah, that was just one. So.
All right, I need to confess something, and I think a lot of you are going to relate. Lately, I've noticed that young men, like guys in their late teens, early 20s, sound kind of effeminate to me. Their intonation, their voice, the way they end sentences. And I catch myself thinking, do guys always sound like that, or is something happening to masculinity? And here's the thing, something is happening. It's a real, measurable linguistic phenomenon, but it has absolutely nothing to do with masculinity per se, or screens, or whatever the discourse wants you to believe.
Just no bitches.
What you're hearing is one of the most robust findings in all of sociolinguistics. Women and girls are the engine of language change. Always have been. And those young men, they're not actually sounding like women. I mean, they kind of are to me, but they also are sounding like the future. They learn to talk from women who are already living in it. Let me explain. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Taylor Jones. I've got a PhD in linguistics from the University of Pennsylvania. And on the channel, I discuss everything related to language, linguistics, language learning, and culture. If you're into those things, like and subscribe. Today, we're addressing why young men sound early to us grizzled old graybeards. This is Old Man Jones. This is Language Jones.
Over.
This video is sponsored by... I used to play a game, I didn't come up with it, called Gay or European. I'm old enough that I remember the metrosexual panic. I'm old enough that I remember when the national discourse was about whether real men ate quiche. And I had to update the game to Gay, European, or Gen Z. By the way, I have other games, like in Manhattan, in October, you get to play, is it a costume? And is he rapping to himself or mentally unwell? That's a fun one on the summer. But today is about Gay, European, or Gen Z. So here's the headline result, which has been replicated across dozens of languages and dialects. When a sound is changing, when a vowel is shifting, when new intonation patterns are spreading, when an old pronunciation is dying out, women are statistically ahead of men, usually by a generation, sometimes more. This was first really nailed down by William Labov, like basically everything else in sociolinguistics, in his work in places like Martha's Vineyard and Philadelphia. One is a lot nicer than the other, in the 60s and 70s. And it's now called one of Labov's principles of linguistic change. For changes from below, meaning changes happening below the level of conscious awareness, which is most of them. Women lead. It's not subtle. When you map out who pronounces a shifting vowel the new way versus the old way, you get this beautiful staircase. Oldest men at the back, then older women, then younger men, then youngest women out front, pioneering the change. Which means if you're in your 30s or 40s listening to a 19-year-old guy, you're hearing speech patterns that were established when he was a toddler by his mother, by his older sisters, by his female daycare workers, by his female teachers. He didn't get girly, he got current. And the women around him, when he was learning to talk, were already living in the linguistic future that you haven't caught up to yet. Weird, right? Now, to appreciate why this finding is so wild, you have to understand the field that it disrupted. Dialectology, my very favorite. Old school dialectology, the discipline of mapping out regional speech, has historically relied on a category of speakers that linguists semi-jokingly called Norse. That's an acronym. Non-mobile, older, rural, male. The logic was reasonable on its face. If you want to find the most conservative, most locally distinctive forms of a dialect, the version least contaminated by outside influence, by media, by the prestige standard, you go find a 75-year-old farmer who's lived in the same village his whole life and whose parents and grandparents did too. He's your linguistic time capsule. And dialectologists did this everywhere. The big dialect atlases of England, of the American South, of rural France, they're built on interviews with norms. Old men in pubs, old men on porches, old men who have, with apologies, opinions about the weather. As an aside, there's a guy named Jules Giron who had literally the best dream job of all time. He bicycled from village to village in France, eating baguettes presumably, and chatting with the locals to produce an enormous and enormously detailed atlas of French. There's a problem with resting your entire analysis on Norse. Several problems actually. The obvious one is by only listening to non-mobile, older, rural men, you systematically miss everything that's changing. You get a beautiful photograph of the past, and you completely fail to see the future walking past your window, or the front porch, or whatever it is they're doing. The norm methodology is almost by design blind to the leading edge of change, which we now know is overwhelmingly female, often urban, often younger. Basically urban, female first, young, Buffy. Take that back. The deeper problem is when dialectologists did interview women, especially in the early to mid 20th century, women's speech got pathologized. It was called less authentic, more affected, influenced by fashion. Linguists would note that the women in a village pronounce things more like the city and treat that as a contamination, as women failing to preserve the real dialect rather than as the actual signal that women were leading change. The data the whole time. We just labeled it wrong because we decided in advance that the real language lived in old men's mouths. So why women? Why girls? This is where it gets really interesting because the why is not settled and there are several mechanisms working at once. Let me walk through one of the big ones. Mechanism 1, caretaker speech. In most societies across most of history, the people doing the bulk of talking to babies and small children have been women. Mothers, grandmothers, aunts, older sisters, female childcare workers, female early grades teachers. This is called child-directed speech or sometimes still motherese, though linguists have mostly moved on from that term. We can talk about patriarchy and challenging gender roles and all of that, but the generalization holds for the overwhelming majority of human history and contemporary interaction. Not saying what should be, just what is. And child-directed speech isn't just baby talk. It's a specific register with exaggerated intonation, clear vowels, and crucially, it is the primary linguistic input a child gets during the years their phonological system is locking in. Women doing the caretaking of themselves a half generation ahead on a sound change. That change gets transmitted directly to the next generation's foundational grammar, which then they move forward. The men in the household are all downstream of this. They're not the ones the toddler is spending 8 hours a day mimicking. Usually. Mechanism 2 is the cool older girl effect. This is a huge and underrated one. Penelope Eckert's work at Detroit area high schools for famous jocks and burnout study showed in granular detail how teenage social hierarchies drive linguistic innovation. Slightly older girls specifically are extraordinarily influential. 14-year-old girls desperate to sound like the 16-year-old girls she admires. So 16-year-olds are reaching toward the 18-year-olds. And the boys of all those ages are watching the girls too, because the girls are social arbiters of who's cool and what's cool, among other reasons. It's the mean girl theory of linguistic change.
Stop trying to make that happen.
So a new vowel pronunciation, a new intonation pattern, up top, vocal fry. Whatever the current moral panic is, it starts with one cluster of high status teenage girls and radiates outward and downward. Younger girls pick it up first. Younger boys pick it up shortly after because the girls that they want to impress are using it. By the time it reaches the boys, it's already been polished by a couple of cycles of female adolescent peer pressure. Mechanism 3, women navigate more linguistic markets. This is from sociolinguists like Leslie Milroy, working in Belfast and elsewhere, and building on foundational theory from Bourdieu, or as lots of affected academics call him strangely, Bourdieu. We need a Medea clip here.
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
Women historically have moved between more social networks than men, between home and work, between their own family and their in-laws' family, between neighborhoods, between formal and informal registers. Men in tight-knit communities often have denser but more closed networks. The same guys, the same job, same pub. Dense closed networks preserve old forms. Looser, broader networks spread new ones. Women, by being the connective tissue between groups, end up being the vectors of change. Mechanism 4, women are more sensitive to prestige in both directions. So above also documented that women lead in adopting prestige forms, the correct pronunciation, the standard variant, and they lead in adopting covert prestige forms, new, non-standard, locally cool variants. Men tend to be more linguistically conservative in both directions. The reasons here are debated and tangled up with gender expectations about how women are evaluated socially based on how they speak, which is a whole other video which I should make, but the pattern is robust. So circle back to the thing that prompted this. You're in your 30s, your 40s, and a 22-year-old guy opens his mouth, and something about it just registers as feminine in your brain. It's not xenoestrogens in the soy, or birth control runoff in the water, or Jewish mind control, or whatever the manosphere is panicking about today. What's in the water that makes them so panicky and anxious? Leave me a comment. Here's what's actually happening. The vowel space he's using is intonation, contours, maybe some specific features like the high rising terminal, what gets called uptalk or creaky voice at the ends of phrases, were innovations led by women, roughly when he was being raised. He absorbed them from female caretakers and from the slightly older girls he wanted to impress in middle school. By the time he hit puberty, those features were already part of his native phonology. They're not feminine to him. They're just how people his age talk. And us old heads just keep getting closer to telling the young folk about how men were really men back in my day. What you're perceiving as effeminate is really just temporarily female. It's speech that was a generation ago statistically more common in women's mouth than men's. The change has now diffused. Your ear hasn't caught up because your phonological system locked in when you were a kid, listening to your caretakers who were one full step back on the same staircase. And here's the kicker, the part that I find genuinely beautiful. In 20 years, those 22-year-old men will be in their 40s and they will hear the new 22-year-old men and think, God, you guys really sound like that now? And the answer will be yes, because somewhere right now, a 9-year-old girl is doing something with her vowels that nobody's got a pejorative name for yet. Her little brother is listening. All right, so if you want some deep dives, look up William LeBeau on Philadelphia vowel shifts, among others, Penelope Eckert on jocks and burnouts, and Leslie Milroy on Belfast social networks. There's also great newer work on specific changes, the California vowel shift, Canadian shift, the Northern Cities shift, and women are leading in all of that. I'll link to LeBeau's principles of linguistic change below. Fair warning, it's technical, and there's also a lot to quibble with, but that's another video for another day, including one I'll link at the end. Language isn't decaying, it isn't getting softer or weaker or more screen-addled, it's doing what it's always done, changing generation by generation, mostly through the mouths of people we paid the least attention to for the longest time. Anyway, like, subscribe, tell me in the comments what speech features aided you the most. See you next week.
What? Oh, yep.
This is one of the most incredible sleigh rides I've ever seen.
Wait, hold on, wait. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Delilah. What's it like in New York City? I'm 1,000 miles away. But girl, tonight you look so pretty. Yes, you do. Times Square again.
Pretty much. No.
Welcome back to is about Fortnite. For some context, Fortnite recently released a thing called Sprites, which I assume is kind of their take on Steal a Brain Rot. You can even get a rare burnt peanut sprite. Some sprites are rarer than others, and you can actually kill people and steal their sprites. Well, Nick A30, a popular Fortnite creator you may know as the family-friendly guy, has been getting a lot of hate on Twitter, and here's the reason why.
When this guy jumps on the battle bus, I'm gonna follow him. I'm gonna take his gold sprite. That's a rare one. That's him. Look! Oh my gosh!
So he basically saw that someone had a rare sprite in the lobby, followed them when they deployed from the battle bus, and killed them and stole their sprite. Yes, killing someone in a video game is apparently serious business, with multiple tweets getting thousands of likes saying if someone did this to you, you would report them. If you play like this, you're a loser, getting 27,000 likes, and plenty more tweets just like this. This one saying, I like how Nick A30 doesn't even have anyone defending him, everyone just universally hates him. He has so many fans and friends who would most likely give him that sprite, but instead he wants to be a loser and kill someone for it. Disgusting. That's because Nick A30 is a stupid little ignorant immature bitch. This guy has no actual nuts of his own. Otherwise, if he did, he would have grown up by now. Twitter really doesn't like this guy. Other Fortnite streamers jumping in to defend him, such as Cypher PK, said the Nick A30 hate is so forced and over the top. I truly believe attention and getting a banger tweet dunking on someone is all these people are after. This was Nick A30's response to all the hate.
This exact example of how Twitter is just like literal toxicity galore. Like, you make yourself feel terrible, guys. Come to Twitter, make an account, and start scrolling.
People responding to this saying, no, Nick A30, we bully you because you're a whiny, pathetic man-child who whines and moans every time you get slightly inconvenienced in this game, and then turns around and does the same scummy things you whine about content. A lot of people continuing to complain and saying if somebody did this to him, he would report them for being a stream sniper. But at the end of the day, he just
Anyway,
so yeah, this one getting 24,000 likes saying they added Omni to Fortnite, and yet you're still the biggest clown in the game, which is a good segue because they did just recently add Omni from the Amazing Digital Circus to Fortnite, and for some reason they gave her hips, leading to tweets getting hundreds of thousands of views, all basically saying they are now gooning to her. This one getting over 100,000 likes saying Fortnite just revolutionized Omni porn market. Another saying releasing this Omni model should be considered a genuine threat to society. Someone will goon themselves to death. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go play Fortnite, no particular reason. Thank.
And this. Wow, pure. The fuck? It's not like that, really. Pum, 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 pum. No idea what that's from. If it's his own thing or not. Whatever. Anyway. What? Merch slop. Oh, well.
For 8 years, NVIDIA's DLSS technology made your games run faster with almost no downside. The company caught some flack for inflating frame rate numbers with AI-generated frames, but generally, DLSS had a good reputation. That is, until early 2026, when DLSS 5 shattered it in the eyes of anyone who preferred that their games not resemble the AI slop infecting the rest of the internet. But is that backlash justified? How different is it really from its predecessors? NVIDIA's original deep learning supersampling launched with the RTX 2080 in 2018, and while this is a gross oversimplification, it essentially rendered frames at a lower resolution, then upscaled them using machine learning techniques to get a sharper image without the performance hit. Later versions refined this basic image enhancement process with better anti-aliasing and denoising. But DLSS 3 added frame generation, a new kind of interpolation that used AI to boost frame rate by generating what many gamers derisively call fake frames. The current version, DLSS 4.5, can be set to generate up to 6 fake frames for every real frame. That is, a frame that is, although altered, still created by traditional graphics rendering techniques. DLSS 5 seems to take this fake frames concept even further and gets rid of real frames altogether. According to NVIDIA, DLSS 5 uses a real-time neural rendering model that infuses pixels with photoreal lighting and materials. So skin gives off that soft, subsurface glow. Fabric gets a proper sheen instead of looking flat. Hair stops looking like a plastic helmet glued to someone's head. And the demo of NVIDIA's Zora environment genuinely looks stunning, with forest overgrowth and bouncing light that would melt the average GPU if rendered the traditional way. I mean, rendering it at all would probably melt anything other than the 2 RTX 5090s they use to run these demos, which is another unusual thing about DLSS 5. At least for now, it seems like the new DLSS isn't about performance at all. It's purely about visuals. But whether you think those visuals look like slop or not, the tech is real. The question is how it works. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang has said DLSS 5 operates at the geometry level, and that developers will have full creative control over the model's output. That makes it sound like it's plugged deep into the game engine, working with developer-created assets. But is that actually true, Jensen? Really? Jensen? It turns out that Jensen's grasp on the truth didn't quite operate at the geometry level. After the DLSS 5 reveal, YouTuber Daniel Owen got some real answers from NVIDIA's Jacob Freeman about how the tech works. Freeman confirmed that DLSS 5 takes a 2D frame and motion vectors, i.e. information about the direction things are moving, as input. Nothing else. It doesn't have real-time 3D knowledge of the game's current geometry, texture files, or other assets. It infers everything from the finished image, which is a fancy way of saying it takes a 2D screenshot of your game as input and uses generative AI to output a more Instagram-worthy image. No matter what you think about the AI looks so clearly displayed in NVIDIA's demos, some of which, especially shots of environments without people in them, look practically photorealistic, there is some genuinely impressive tech here. How impressed gamers are by that tech seems to depend on how they feel about an AI model overriding creative decisions about what a game and its characters look like. Because the main problem gamers had with the DLSS 5 demos is
pretty much the test whether or not you eat slop. You can eat slop for breakfast when it comes to video games just fine or not. Pretty much the ultimate test. If you like this shit, yeah, pretty much you're fucking I don't know, worse than a fucking normie pretty much at this point. Something worse than a normie, I don't know. Pretty much complacent as fuck to how shit's gonna look like. Oh well. I just want to go
Character faces
on
in
my
Resident
video
Evil
game.
and Hogwarts Legacy were
I
drastically
can
changed.
get
Resident Evil's
enough
race
of
had
porn.
gained makeup that wasn't there. A
I
Star
can
character
get
who appeared
enough
out of
of
nowhere.
porn.
Faces looked airbrushed, and the word justified started trending. Former Red Dead Redemption 2 developer Mike York called it a complete AI re-render, not a lighting pass, which, given what we know about how tech works, is accurate. Now, to be fair, NVIDIA FAQ says developers aren't completely powerless to shape how DLSS 5 re-renders their game. It says they can adjust blending, contrast, saturation, and gamma, and mask elements out, so the AI skips over those. Essentially, they can do some basic Lightroom edits, but the AI still decides what to change everywhere else, and it's decided from, once again, a simple 2D screenshot. Now, DLSS 5 doesn't ship until fall, with launch titles like Assassin's Creed Shadows, Resident Evil Requiem, and Oblivion Remastered. So there is time to give artists more control and stop the model from adding makeup to characters who weren't wearing any. After all, the first DLSS had a bit of a rough debut in 2018 before becoming the gold standard for upscaling. So maybe this video will age poorly and people will learn to like DLSS 5, but we think that will depend on whether NVIDIA spends that time addressing gamers' concerns or just insisting that people raising them are wrong. And
then something very interesting, something magical happened. She asked me one day, "Do you want Thai food?" And I did something amazing. I asked her, "Do you want Thai food?" Yes. I was like, "Great, every relationship I've seen that's successful has at least one red flag." And even that, everyone's like, "Red flag, run for the hills, don't run for the hills," because we are red. What's the topic of today's stream? So we're going to talk a little bit about hate. Okay, use hate to fuel you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about ADHD. We're going to talk a little bit about the diagnosis of autism. We're going to talk a little bit about how to balance self-love with criticism. I use hate as motivation. Yeah, we're going to talk about that today. You want to learn the dark magic? Well, I mean, the last person who talked about learning the dark magic, right? And I used the dark magic on them. I think they were at HGI. So we started HGI, Healthy Gamers Institute, where we teach people the dark magic. So what Dr. King is saying that we should take constructive criticism better? Hell no, dude. I don't think so. No, I've not seen the finale of Attack on Titan, and I was talking to someone on our team a couple days ago, and they're like, "You really need to watch the end of Attack on Titan." And then, welcome to discontinued tier. Yeah, there's some changes to the YouTube membership system. Who's going to World Cup? I don't know. Who's going to World Cup? Did you guys see what you're saying? Think a little bit about Jedi's mental health. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. It's like, yeah, maybe we should think about this. Like, the Jedi's mentally healthy, like sort of, right? So the really interesting about Jedi's is if you like sit in the Jedi, this is very similar to right-handed and left-handed Thundra. So in Thundra, you have these two disciplines. There's Dakshin Amok, which is the right-handed path, and there's Amok, which is the left-handed path. So the right-handed path of Thundra is about devotion. It's about, you know, surrender and cultivating like positive feelings and like using Thundra is about the accumulation of energy. Which is a bit more that. And in Dakshin Amok, we're like we only practice like Thundra is for like it's for good things, manifesting positive. But there is the left-handed path of Amok, which is about engaging with the dark forces. So there's like 5 M's, which are like alcohol, meat, fish, drugs, and sex, which are part of the left-handed path. So it's very like Jedi oriented. How you mentioned this? Yes, I was thinking about. I realized recently that there's a lot of stuff I used to talk about in the first 2 years of streaming that I sort of like kind of stopped talking about because I kind of assumed that everybody wanted to like, oh, this is an old. So I stopped talking about this stuff. And then like as we grew, I realized that our audience is so much bigger, and most people actually have never heard the stuff that I used to talk about. I need to like revisit. Is hate the same as anger in this discussion? Absolutely not. No. Okay. So let's understand. We're going to talk about today is hate directed towards you. Anger is emotion, but I think that sometimes hate is more than anger. Right? You could argue that hate is a degree. Anger, I think it has a different quality to it. Right? So like you know, I can yeah. So it's kind of interesting. It's like I don't know. There's a persistent state. There's an identification with it. Does that make sense? Like if I stub my toe on. So here's the difference between anger is emotion. If I stub my toe, I'm angry at the step. I don't hate. So hate has to do with ego or identity. Hate is about identification. I hate you specifically because you arguably did something to me. So hate is a personalized relationship. Anger is not. Anger is just an emotion. So crocodiles are capable of experiencing anger. It's not clear to me that crocodiles can experience hate. So a cat too can experience anger, but a cat can experience hate. You guys know what I mean, right? So hate is when there's an identification. So let's just decide that. Let me just make sure I'm okay. So let's decide that crocodiles like for a second. So I saw this stuff I was doing. So this is also going to be fun. I'm about to leak my suggested YouTube videos, and so you guys can see what I'm up to recently. My suggested YouTube videos. So I want to show you guys this level. So we're going to this video where everything's a little bit cooler. What's I want you guys how to embrace hate. Embrace hate is always what I used to struggle with, like care about people I thought. So when I hate will, I want to hate. Never seen. To motivate me even more. Embrace my flaws if I ways. Just embracing flaws. Make things. They don't believe until you make it cool. It's totally. February 12th, before I some I watched the things really interesting. What's the true? So I watched the first things that we try on stream not to react to too many like streamers or clips or whatever. So we try to have conversations with people and start talking about people. So if it's Steven kind of wrong, I'm not wrong with it. It's harmful in a way that is yeah, I don't intend to harm someone with what I'm about to say, but I think it's really interesting. Sometimes when you're optimizing emotions and positive action, to feel this reverse. So what I really love about this is to understand what hate is, to understand how what are the possible ways that you can deal with hate. So first thing to understand is hate is when someone, it's not anger, right? Anger is like diffuse. Anger is like I can be angry at the rain, but I don't hate rain. If I develop hatred for the rain, that requires a personification of it, right? The rain is not a force of nature. It's like a thing that's in my life that's actively trying to harm me. So first thing to understand is like there's anger and hate. Anger is emotion activated in the amygdala. Hate is personal. Hate requires me and hate requires you. Right? This particular person is doing this particular thing to me. And when someone sends hate our way, there are a lot of ways we can deal with it. A really common one I deal with as a psychiatrist is people internalize. You're at school, you're at school, people call you a loser, and people call you a loser. That means I'm a loser. Right? You get bullied at school, maybe your parents are like, oh yeah, you're like not there's golden boy, golden child, black sheep. You're not like you're not your older sister, so much harder than you, so much better than you. Terrible sometimes later. So the first thing that we can do is receive hate. Like, hey, okay, this becomes my truth. And we're not stupid for doing this. This is how we evolve. Right? So human beings evolve to be sensitive to the opinions of others because we're a communal species. Unless you pay attention to what people think, and you can adjust that in some way. You'll kick out of the tribe, you can't survive as a human. First thing to do is know. Now sometimes we use this fuel. Right? That too, hate can be used by us in a couple of different ways. So in sort of like narcissistic terms, when someone sends negativity your way, they become the victim, and they use their victim. Oh my God, this person hates me. Oh, I'm such a victim in this scenario. They're trying to take me down. There's a good side and the bad side. There's a Jedi and the Sith hate the Jedi. And that means like I'm part of the force of good. Hate becomes a representation of evil. We're not going to take it seriously by way, right? We're being narcissistic about it. Criticism, if they're criticizing me, that means they're bad. They're expressing words to me in an angry, hateful way. That means they're wrong. Second thing we do is kind of like the third thing that we can do is kind of galvanize us. Right? These people, and this is sort of I think what Kaiser alluding to, is that he embraces hate. Right? He's going to prove these people wrong. All these people saying anger is way, hate is way. He's like, I'm proven wrong. Right? I'm going to show them. I use this as motivation. How? Think about it. Right? Sometimes like it causes us to fall apart. Other times he goes in that room and he looks at that and think about what emotions does that evoke. Does he feel bad about himself? Right? So this is what's really important. I don't know if that's wrong. So I want you to think about this. Right? So when I evoke not race, when I evoke the feelings of hate, I'm going to make a wall. All the people that dislike me. Right? And I make that wall. I'm going to look at it every day. And I want you to think, what does this do to you? Why would you do this? And this is where we get that component of hate is person. So they are persons and I'm a person. I'm over here, they're over here. So we use that hatred like, okay, the way that we respond to, I'm going to prove them wrong. This still comes out ego. I'm going to prove them wrong. Right? They're wrong. I'm right. So I'm going to show them. But I think that can be used. Right? It can galvanize us into action. Someone's going to repurpose hate as motivation. Also based on ego. I think there's one way that's even better than that, even healthier than that. That is to understand what hate truly is. So this is what I want to think about. Kai right now he's trying to start clothing line on the details where I need to take this back. So what is it about him that people hate? Why does this particular thing result in this response? Right? So if we really want to understand hate, we have to be able to utilize hate, control hate, even handle it even more. Because using your ego, engaging the ego is a problem. Because me and you, I'm going to prove them wrong. But then opening yourself up to a very dangerous game. Because now it's against you, and what if it doesn't go well? Then they win and you lose. Right? And if you win, they lose. And then you feel really good. You're creating this conflict. So if you guys really want to understand hate, we want to just look at comments themselves. And let's see if y'all can figure out like, why this. So this is the first thing to understand about hate. Right? So these are always triggered by everything. Somebody hates you. There's something about you that triggers. And that is very important information. What people don't ask is why does this person hate me? What is it about me that this person truly hates? And if we look at the comments, we can get insight into that. And we'll understand something very interesting about it. So let's take a look. Okay, hard to watch. He's trying too hard. Okay. Another quick cash grab. Put some bolts and sweaters and sticks and trash leather together and sell to a bunch of kids. Wait till we start dropping people online. That's not the stuff they'll throw on him, make all close y'all's eyes and call it style. What you're wearing is ugly. You want to do baggy early 2000s. This is the point, bro. Ignore the supporters, bro. Right? So here's what I want y'all to think about for a second. Why are these people bothered by this? What difference does it make? He's trying too hard. What is their criticism? What is the criticism here? Literally spelled out. He's trying too hard. Why on earth would someone trying too hard result in somebody else seeing you? You guys thought about this ever? Okay, someone's saying they're jealous. Jealous of what? What are they jealous of? Fine, you detect that, right? They feel it's unfair. Threatens their own sense of self. There we go. Okay, so this is the really interesting thing that people realize about hate. The number one reason that people hate you, I really believe this, right? This is not hyperbole, is that they see in you a capability that you are fulfilling that they're failing to fulfill. So just think about this. So Kai's a very successful streamer. I'm sure he's funny. And what is he doing? Is he retiring to a yacht and playing video games all day and getting higher? What's he doing? He's stepping away from his career, entering an entirely new field that he has no experience in. I don't know about some of these things we don't know. He's like, hey, I'm going to try to do this thing because I'm passionate about it. I'm stepping outside my comfort zone. I'm leaving all of my success behind. I'm forging a new territory. I'm going to give something a try. And oh my God, do people hate him for that? So I once had a patient who was literally more than obese. This is a mental
I was going to say all this stuff, me perform whatever, try too hard, but at the same time don't be mean about it. It may sound hateful, but it doesn't mean the person's actually being hateful or not. going on?
Understand that they're seeing something in you that they're reacting to. The reason they hate you is not because they think you can fail. They hate you because they think they're worried that you're going to succeed. It's why they can rationalize like, oh my god, this person is a successful influencer, they have so much money, they're successful. That's why they have a car and I have a car. They just something about identification, it's relationship. And this is what they do, is they other influencers. Like, influencers are a person, they have all these advantages that I would have. Therefore, I don't feel like we're comparable. The moment that you step outside your comfort zone, the moment that you walk away from your advantages, now suddenly he's trying too hard. And when we see somebody else trying too hard, we look, when they see him doing this kind of stuff, they think about all the ideas that they had, all the ideas that they chose not to pursue, all the dreams that they had, they walked away from because they said I can't do it, it's not going to work, or what if it fails, what if people don't like it, right? And then when you do it, it really bothers them. Hatred and jealousy doesn't apply to people that you don't identify with. It applies to people that you identify with the most. And influencers, that's the biggest problem, right? We're humans. So people continue to identify with us as they should because we're human. And when you start to do something that they know that they could have done, the reason people hate you the most is when you all both have shared potential, but you live up to it and they do not. This is very difficult to experience. And this is where you guys may be on the hating side, right? What is it like? I see those people who are critical of me. I don't know exactly what's in their head, but sometimes like, I really feel the identification they hate, and they're really bothered by like what I have done because they could have done it too. They just did it. So you may feel that too. And I want you guys to think about it. You feel this hate towards someone else, right? Why do you hate this thing about this person? And ask yourself, I'm not saying 100%, but ask yourself, is there an element of this where I'm looking at them and I know if I make different choices, if I woke up earlier in the morning, if I know these are things I've always wanted to do, I don't do them. It shines a light on your weakness, and that is not something that you can tolerate. And then what is the ultimate thing that you can do? You can watch them get torn down. Because suddenly, if they got torn down, then you are righteous. You are justified. Oh, thank God I didn't try. Because that dumbass tried and he failed. And so it's a smart move. Thank God I did not try. Because the one thing that would be really hard to live with is to realize that I should have tried. And make me face that mistake. Oh my God, it's so hard for me. So another thing to understand, people hate you not because of your capacity to fail, but because of your capacity to succeed. So people say, no, if somebody's pissed at me, I must be doing something right. So the thing to understand is this is where I try to help you. If you internalize criticism, internalize anger, internalize hatred, the thing to understand is the reason they hate you is because they believe you. If they didn't believe you, no one's hating on a 9-year-old grandma living in a nursing home for like trying to make people buy Williams. No one believes she's capable of that. So no one's going to get jealous of her for that. No one can be jealous of you. No one can hate you unless they think something is possible. And if you guys have been bullied, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Right? This is every sort of like teenage rom-com with ugly girl with glasses and her hair done in a bad way. And why do pretty girls hate the ugly girl? Why do they keep her down? Because she's beautiful and they know it and she doesn't. So they try to push her down. At the end of the movie, she has her hair done, contact lenses, shows up, right? And then, oh my God, ugly, nothing has transformed. If people are hating you and you believe you're ugly, you're swan. That's why they hate you. So understand that hatred is them being afraid of you living up to your potential. And how that reflects on them because they see they don't like you and you made it and they didn't. Really hard to handle. If you're experiencing hatred for other things you should think about why this person. There's one other thing. This is a bit different. So as I started understanding things in this way, taking things in this way, there's another kind of element to this. There's another kind of motivation that I think you can definitely take. So one is to be galvanized, engage in an ego relationship. They want me to fail. I'm going to prove them wrong. There's still an I and there's still a them. One of us is going to win, one of us is going to lose. That is fundamentally an ego-based relationship. I don't think they can really succeed. Don't get me wrong. But I work with many people who are incredibly ego-driven and they will rise to the heights of success networks like $40 billion or whatever. I want to be number one. Very different. Surely some people for it. But if you want maximum material success to be ego-driven, this is a pretty good way to do it. And all you have to do is look around the world, look at people who are the most successful in the world and ask yourself, is this person contented? Is this person peaceful? Are they egotistical? Are they threatened by the success of others? How much of their time to talk because they can't fathom, they can't handle somebody else telling them to talk because they want to be number one. I need to be number one. And will that get you to the top? I'm sure I can't make a strong argument against it, but I don't think it's the right thing to do. That's why you want to be number one. Because sometimes when clients come to me, I'll tell them kind of straight up, if your goal is to make $1 billion, you should probably do it with somebody else. If your goal is to make between $10 and $100 million, you want to be relatively happy, content, doing it, then I'm the best entrepreneurs ever. So I'll be really straight. If you want to be number one, like somebody else. If you want to be happy, content, and be very successful, then I'm the best. So this other element that I want to talk to you about is a little bit strange. When I sort of got a lot of hate, I started to realize that this is the mountain that I have to climb. And sometimes when people send hate your way, this is sort of like a spiritual work that you have to do. Sort of my patient who's trying to lose weight. When you're moving in the right direction, what's really scary is the world doesn't show up to make it easy for you. In fact, the better you do, the greater the challenges the universe will place in front of you. It's hard enough to be have a BMI of 38.1 and decide I want to try to be healthy. It's hard enough to try to conquer your own desires, be raised in a household where soda is available, free meals a day, soon 3 meals a day. It's hard to be in a household and make all these changes on your own. And when you decide to put your life together, the universe is like, you know what, we're going to make it harder. We're going to make your parents throw out your healthy food. And this is where a lot of people despair. And understandably so. It's hard enough to do. There's another angle to this I'm trying to find words for it. Like, this is your spiritual challenge. This is where you will truly understand. This is the universe giving you the opportunity to really understand how incredibly powerful you are. That is hard for regular people to do. This is damn near impossible, but you're absolutely capable. And you must be forged in the fires. Like the heat of the fire is what determines the purity of metal. And so as difficulties arise, as you start to walk a path that is spiritually harmonious, as you start to become the person that you know you are capable of being, truly living up to your potential, the world will help you in some ways, but it will also increase the handicap. You understand this in video games, right? You beat level 1 that has the final boss of all time. You go to the second zone, final boss of level 20, third zone, final boss of level 30, last boss of the game is level 60. As you get better in life, it's kind of weird. You'll notice there are more and more roadblocks that get put in front of you just when things are going right. If this is happening in your life, do not despair. Understand that this is the universe forcing you to become what you are truly capable of. Right? This is kind of weird. Once you understand that, once you understand, okay, this is a handicap, so be it. I'm not going to give up. And that's kind of the interesting. That's the step you have to take. Let the world let it come. Come on, bro. I may fail, and that's okay. I'm not going to give up. Things are getting harder and harder and harder, so be it. Am I going to give up? No. That's where you become who you truly are. That's how you develop power and confidence. And some people call it energy. That's when you start to channel your most divine self. When the world is ready against you and all hope is lost. Right? That's when you really rise to the best. So one time I played this one time I played a charity tournament. That's not good. I did a charity tournament. So a bunch of retired pros. Like some of like top streamers and things like that. Some were retired pros. Right? It's the best players in their day. The best players in the world. It's a charity tournament. I'm the lowest player, like 7,000 more. I played the best I ever in my life. There's one moment apparently where I juked a TI winner in the trees. Like I'm going insane. But I can only play my best. You can't play your best if you're perfect. What you're truly capable of is only revealed with the depth of hardship that you're facing. So if people are hating on you and you feel like the world is moving against you, no, my friend. Well, actually, yes, it is moving against you. It doesn't matter because you can handle it. All you need to do is become that which you know you are. Deep inside, there's a voice that tells you, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I want to actually it tells you this needs to be done. It's a calling that is deep within you. So when people come at your way, hate, realize this is the universe telling you to level up, telling you to become what you should, what you are meant to be. And then remove and right with that process of people. That also removes ego from the equation. Right? It's like they hate us. We don't need to teach them a lesson. Why? That's the gratification of the ego. Right? Tell my clients that I work with this. Leave them in the dust. Don't whack all the haters on the internet. Leave them in the dust. Right? The best revenge is living a good life. And really, that's true. They're going to be back there raging and hoping your next endeavor fails while you're doing something that's wonderful, engaging, testing yourself. Right? And if you guys play video games, you know that the most satisfaction win, most satisfying win, most satisfying achievement comes because of the challenge, in spite of the challenge. Because the world teaches us that we are nothing. And when it tries really hard to teach us that lesson, and when we refuse to learn it, when we become what we're truly meant to be, that is when we know who we are. So the universe is telling you hate somebody that wants you to grow options. Right, so this is who are we? Our backs are against the wall. So this is what's cool about this question. So when your back is against the wall, you've got nothing left but you. Right, that's when it's just you. All your territory has been taken away. How do you know when to quit? Very good question. So the reason that quitting becomes hard is because our ego gets tied up into it. The reason it becomes hard to quit is because quitting says something about you. See, the reason it's hard to quit is because if you quit, you become very easy to quit if you don't identify with it. Right, so there's an interesting weird psychology. When I was training at Harvard, and there's a sort of attitude there, not by everybody, but I think most people agree. There's a sort of attitude of academic superiority. We'll call this people talk about academia, academia is wonderful. There's a lot of amazing people are making a lot of amazing contributions, but there is this element. There's this element. If you go like PhD programs, right? The best and the brightest and the purest stay in academia, and the more greedy people can't cut it in the world of academic publishing, they go develop patents and start billion-dollar companies, and they go into industry. Not pure. So this weird thing that goes on in academia where it's like you're the best. And sometimes they are, and sometimes it's the best and brightest people stay in academia. This is where you gotta be careful because I was sort of experiencing this. So I felt like a failure. I felt like I was getting something out inside the circle. Because I was walking away from academia, I couldn't cut it there. So for a little while I felt like quit. But I was like, you know what, that's not actually what I spend my days filling out grant applications. Is that literally how I write? So today's Friday at noon. And in what world would I rather be filling out a 62-page application that's going to go through 6 rounds of revision as opposed to talk to chat? So when you know when to first remove your ego from the equation, because your ego is what makes it hard to quit. Once your ego is removed from the equation, then you'll be able to see things clearly. And what's really interesting is when you remove your ego from the equation, oftentimes the question of quitting actually disappears. I don't know if this makes sense. Quitting is binary, but life is not. So I'll give you an example. Right? So I was saying something. I was really not I had patients who was saying something. And they invested a lot in this relationship. And they were like, I don't know if I should quit or not. My boyfriend is fiance is getting into online gambling. I invested a lot in this relationship. We have 18 months old together. I don't know if I should be or not be quit or not quit. And that's a binary thing. I don't think that was the right answer. So remove the ego from the equation. It's like, oh my god, that means I give up on someone. I'm quit or not. You know, my dad did that. I don't want to be like that. It was a bunch of secondary people. But what we're looking down to is remove quit from the equation. What's the best thing for you to do? And what we came to is really helpful. So if you're wondering should you quit or not, strongly recommend you consider this. Give it a fixed amount of time where you need to see a fixed amount of progress. So go have a conversation with your fiance. Say, look, this is not working. I'm going to give it 6 months. If I don't see significant progress, I'm done with the relationship. Right? Be super clear. It's not quit or not quit. What does it say about? What does it not say about me? Am I leaving something? Am I going to give up on my family? Addiction is a mental illness. So I want to break up someone because of mental illness. No, this is the reality of the situation. In 6 months, this is the time frame that I have in order to see progress. I'm happy to try to work with you in those 6 months. If things are not figured out by that point, I can't make any promises about it. And it's not like you have to make that commitment and then stick to it. You can reevaluate. So I find this so helpful with patients coaching about people where it's like, you know, we always go right now. It's like, hold on a second, let's try something. We're X amount of time, and then you'll know. In medicine, we have this phrase of things will declare themselves. Is it an autoimmune disease or is it an infection? Both of them have inflammation in the lungs, pleural effusion. So is it infectious or is it autoimmune?
immune. In one case, is our immune system not doing work, and in the other case, is our immune system override damaging our body. Which one is it? We don't know what to do. Should we give them steroids or not give them steroids? I don't know. Steroids in some ways we need immune system. That's why we give antibiotics, and then we wait 24 hours. The answer will declare itself. If it is infection in 24 hours, your IgE cycle will improve. We'll see the white count down, the fever will start to break up, we'll see changes in the blood. Fusion takes longer than 24 hours. It will declare itself. So should you quit your job? Should you break up with your partner? Give it some amount of time to be clear about what you're looking for in that time. Because it's so hard to quit when you think cross-sectionally. Whereas cross-sectionally is one point in time. It's way easier to know what the right thing to do is when you add the dimension of time. Should I leave? Should I quit being a teacher? Well, how are things 8 years ago? How are things 7 years ago? How are things 6 years ago? 5 years ago? 2 years ago? 1 year? Well, I know some places that like their brain-rotted kids that got all kinds of problems. There are some places where that doesn't happen. There's still good schools out there. Okay, so how much time do you want to give yourself before you leave teaching for? I'll give it 2 years. Fine. What are you going to do in those 2 years? I'm trying to get one of those schools. What are you going to do after those 2 years? I don't know. Okay, so now we've got 2 goals. So the next 2 years you're going to try to go to like a nice private academy that pays well, that has teachers that are engaged. Like that's your goal. It's a very clear target. And then we're also over the next 6 months we're going to figure out your background and then you leave. That's what we try to do when we work with people and stuff like that. Should you quit? It's not yes or no. Focus on how to quit. What's the best way to quit? When is it so much easier? Because it doesn't make you a quitter. Make you a quitter is only cross-sectionally. Quit the
someone who spent 2 years trying to make this work. Turns out teaching is an absolute dumpster fire. I'm not sure someone can tell you better than anybody. Who's going to call you your fellow teachers that you say. Yeah, so I use hate and spite fuel all those factors. Like I said, you can use it to galvanize you and play into the ego relationship. Right? There's things saying, I took that personally. Exactly. But playing the ego game is dangerous because that is a game that 99.99% of us will lose. You may win if you're but there are 1,000 people who play that game, literally 1,000 people who got insulted when they were playing college basketball, and they took it personally too. They ended up like Jordan. You end up like Jordan Brown playing the ego, but lean into the ego. Recognize the odds are against you. That's what you do. Okay, you want to ask for advice, and the best thing is to post on Subreddit. It's not pertinent to what we're talking about here. You can ask. Okay, let's move on. There's another question. How is this related to when you identify with someone you want to help them as, and I help them because you reminds me of myself? Oh, beautiful. Okay, so there's another way that this identification happens, which KQ mentioned regularly. This is very, very useful. Sometimes I see myself as somebody else. That results in jealousy. Sometimes I see myself as somebody else. That results in sacrifice. Right? I wasn't able to make it. You can. Let me help you. I have an say myself. I can save you. So you'll notice that some of the biggest fixers on the planet are broken. The more broken you are, the easier it is to become fixed. And this is something that's been well studied in medicine. It's really interesting. This concept of the wounded healer. So men, like, even before psychiatry, 100 years ago, people were physicians were writing about the wounded healer. And there's something really powerful about that. I would even argue that the best healers are wounded. And the reason for that is because you can study medicine as much as you want, but when you have suffered, you have an understanding of suffering that you cannot get without going through. So I really do think that my failing out of college makes me as good. It contributes just as much to my ability to help other people as my medical training does. Right? I struggle with addiction. I struggle with probably depression. Even today, my mind tells me I was supposed to show real depression. But real depression. I still have that internal thought process. At some point, we started assuming that the critical thoughts in our head are nasty or by definition wrong. That's not really what you have. No, you're with the person. And that's why honestly, I believe myself and many people do not realize this. If you have self-critical thought in your head where you think you're a piece of trash in some ways, you could be right. There's a reason that voice is there. There's a differential diagnosis here. So this is where that voice is wrong if you grew up in a household of abuse or neglect. That voice is somewhat wrong if you were bullied. I'm not always right. I'm also saying it's not always wrong. And this is the important thing. As long as you don't identify with it. I'm not a loser, but I have been a wuss. I could have done better in those moments. To de-identify with it is the real crying in my opinion. Because there's a voice in you that may be harsh, may be critical. It doesn't have to be that harsh. But you can sort of take a step back and be like, you know what, that voice is an element of truth. I could have done better. And that's the thing. Because you're clinically ill, have trauma, abuse, neglect. Then I think you shouldn't trust that voice. Because that's actually your voice. It's the voice that was implanted within you. Right? So it's nuanced there. But does that make sense? Like, I just think it's both. Yeah, I'm not like it. So there's a very good chance that it is both. So I was bullied a lot growing up in school. Right? So there's an element of toxicity to it. I also did this other thing that you guys may have heard of. I play games on the internet. There's some games on the internet. And playing games on the internet is also where you encounter a lot of toxic things. So it's a prize I might get in spiritual beauty. I'm still a degenerate gamer, but there's a corner of my mind that is a degenerate toxic gamer. Oh my god, it's so bad. And it's and that's okay. So like, it's okay. There's an element. And that's why I don't like let it tell me truth. I don't like let it dictate things 100%. It's okay. It says that was what kind of was. Like, let's examine that quickly. I know it's internet. Yeah, so the internet is confusing for all the general kids. So you know when you open up like TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, it's kind of weird, but those apps on your phone are all like connected in ways that you can't see by this thing called the internet. And the internet is the most direct way to access the internet. I don't even know if that's true right now. So the internet used to be accessed primarily through your app like Chrome or Firefox. You know how those apps have these things called websites? That was the main way that they interact with each other. The internet is all the connections. The internet is when you DM someone on Snapchat. The internet is what allows you to send a message to them. It's really confusing. Okay. It's special something. Don't have this. So we special something. We're on Twitch. We did this special something. I love it. It's funny like you chat and chat and it's like there's a difference in chat. Right? I don't think we should be embarrassed about it. We should be embarrassed about it. We can be proud of that. Okay. What's the difference? You know, it would be really interesting. What would be fun to make this system compare the two chats and like see how the two chats respond to the same thing. Okay. We also just talk about that. Okay. I want to show you all. Open up the gram. Did you guys see that?
But there are people who, when your kids were classified as gifted, I was like, so I took the test and I was like, why do I have this way to put in superpower to stay on stage and make these worlds and these things? So it's crazy. I realized I was thinking on the spectrum and thinking what I do. We have spoken about this in large, but
okay, so we're talking about gifted on spectrum. Actually, I've been told that guys like twice. So
there are people who, when your kids were classified as gifted, I was like, so I took the test and I was like, why do I have this way to put in superpower to stay on stage and make these worlds and these things? So it's crazy. I realized I was thinking on the spectrum and thinking what I do.
Okay, like this all. Yeah, gifted on spectrum. Okay, yeah, we're in the okay. Okay. So I was really I want to pull up some screen I'm going to pull some papers. I restart my PC, so I have to do all this over again. Okay, almost. Got it. I'm just make sure these are all working. Right, so we're going to just my side bias, the emotional intelligence cognitive. Yeah, no, that's one. Yeah, this is good. Relationships, like gifted. This is one. High intelligence or respect for psychological physiological abilities, some motivated numeracy and like self-confidence. So you guys identify with this? You get all gifted discovery autistic. Giftedness versus special. So I have an interesting question for you all. I ask myself sometimes, why is it that everyone isn't a genius? You guys are this. Like, why is it that everybody's a genius? No. You guys are not because it's relative. Right? I mean, it's literally why is the average IQ of human beings not 200? I don't think that is. Right? Sure, it's relative. Why is the average IQ like 100 instead of 200? Okay, high IQ is also a liability. The other question you can ask is why we got to get right now. We got one kidney left. Why don't I have 3 kidneys? Why don't I have 2 hearts? Why don't I have 3 eyes? Why do I have 2 eyes? Why don't I have 1 optic organ? I have a nose, 2 eyes, 1 mouth, 2 ears, 5. So it is a metric. You're right. So the average IQ is a sales force. Fair enough. But why is the average human being? Why is their computational power where it is instead of being way higher? People say evolution. That's correct. Evolution selected with this level of IQ. Not a little bit more, not a little bit less. This is the average, right? And maybe there's a neuronal gap. Maybe there's a certain there's a hardware issue, right? We only got so much RAM in the brain. There's only so much computation we can do. For those of you who are saying there's a cost that is exactly right. So we see this with gifted kids. Gifted kids don't necessarily perform better. We see also with autistic status. So we know that in the autistic brain, some of these people are capable of incredible things, but that capability comes at a terrible cost. So I don't know if you guys know this, but this is not old news. So in 2007 and 2008, there was something called the subprime mortgage crisis. So basically, what happened was the economy crashed. And basically, the reason it crashed is because people were doing something really interesting. They were giving out loans to people who could not afford them. Then what they were doing is packaging all of those loans and selling them to somebody else. So I'm going to loan you $100. Chance that you'll default 10%. I'm going to do that 100 times. And so some of these loans are going to go bad and lose all my money. I'm going to package all of them and sell them to somebody else. And then with the money I get from that sale, I'm going to go out and do it to 200 people. Now that was my money. So people were doing this assumption going on. Basically, was creating a huge risk of default. And there was a guy who was a radiologist. So guy in finance who's on the spectrum. You guys have seen Big Short. This is the, I don't know if he was, I don't know the movie he's essential. I don't know, but there were books written about this. And he's basically the one who figured it out. So the rest of the world was like, oh my god, this is the way, this is the way. So there's something shady going on. He basically figured it out. He's on the spectrum. We'll see this time down the track. This person was someone who's incredibly gifted happens to be autistic. Now there's severe autism as well, where like there's no positive trade-off. People who are nonverbal, people who engage in self-injurious behavior. There's some versions of being on the spectrum that don't confer any advantage in my mind. I've seen cases like this. Many of the patients that I work with will have some advantages, but on balance, it's life doesn't make it life easier. What you get when you trade the autism for the savant is not worth it because it causes so many problems and relationships and things like that. But the main thing to understand is that intelligence comes at cost. So for example, if you look at this paper over here, this is really fascinating. So high intelligence risk factor for psychological and physiological overexcitabilities. Okay, so let's just look at it. People take high IQ as being a potential risk factor for affective disorders, ADHD, ASD, for increased incidence of disease related to immune dysregulation. Okay, so it's really fascinating. My wife's how this works. So if you have a high IQ, your cognitive ability is better. If your cognitive ability is better, you're able to perform more calculations. If you can perform more calculations, you can develop a stronger predictive model of the future. And as your ability to make robust models for the future increases, your anxiety increases directly in proportion. So people with high IQ have higher anxiety because when they go into a situation, they're able to see all of the things that could go wrong. And if you think about what is anxiety, anxiety is looking into the future and being able to predict problems. I'm worried that I could fail tests. I'm worried that I could get stuck on my own. Anxiety is literally the ability to predict problems. There's a problem though with anxiety and giftedness, which is that normally the way that the number of problems that we want to predict needs to be in proportion with our ability to do something about it. Right? Why do we get anxious? So we can predict a problem and do something. Oh my goodness, I could fail my test. Oh, to avoid that, let me study. Right? So prediction problem, implementation solution, 1-to-1. And at 100 IQ, the problems that most human beings predict are solvable. But IQ has a big problem, which is that if I'm capable, I only have 2 minutes, and I only have 24 hours in a day, but I can predict 100 problems. I can't solve all those problems. Like literally, there's a gap between my ability to detect problems and for me to be able to implement solutions because I'm bounded by time, space, and reality. My mind can make predictions. This is why people who are gifted struggle with anxiety. And this creates another problem, which is now I'm making 100 predictions. I can only do 10 solutions, and then I'm able to predict the consequence of 90 problems that have solutions. Oh my god, I need to do so much. Where do I start? It's too much to do. How do I know it's going to work? Overwhelmed. Okay, so that then fuels the fire, which is why we see these papers that show that IQ results in a risk of ADHD, autism, spectrum disorder, and things like that. Next thing to understand, just as another interesting point, is that people who have high IQ are more likely to ruminate. They're more likely to get stuck in their head thinking the same thoughts over and over and over again. Right? If there are 100 problems to solve, my hands can only solve 10. I only have 24 hours a day. What is the smart person going to do? They're going to lean into their strengths. Let me see if I can perform calculations, reduce 100 problems to 99. How can I figure out this situation so that I have to do less? It's the only way to work. I only do 10 things, and there's 90 left. Let me see if I can perform some calculations, reduce 100 to 90, 90, 80, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 30, 30, down 20, 10, 9. We're literally more prone to rumination. Think, solve problems. And they end up getting stuck because now what's happening is instead of solving those 10, because those 10 isn't enough, then what? They spend their energy reducing 100 to 90. They spend all of their time trying to whittle down their problem to something solvable instead of working. They focus on compressing the problem. How do I go to a party and be confident? How do I go to a party and not feel anxious? How do I figure out which major is going to be right so that I stay engaged with it, I don't get bored, and has a good job opportunities by the time I graduate? They're always trying to shape, mold the problem into something solvable instead of
gotta take one step forward, because that is their solution strategy. Right? The brain learns how to do this. They learn how to do this at a very young age. That's what I call gifted. So early on, this works. Oh, I want to play video games all day. I don't want to study my math test. How do I solve this problem? Oh, I know. I'll just pay attention in school. So I don't study. If I pay attention in school, I can come on and Maybe there are solutions. And this is the problem is that they develop a strategy that only works at low rank. Right? And rapid expand every game. So rapid expand because people at my rank never use rush fast. So they start to develop bad habits. Why do they develop bad habits? Because they can get away with it. People who have a high basic metabolic rate, a fast metabolism, oftentimes have terrible eating habits. Because whether they eat Twinkies, whether they eat salad, they stay thin. So they're not given the opportunity to. This is what's so tricky about life. So many people I work with, the higher the capability is, the harder it is to live up to your potential. Because you're saddling all of these bad habits that was never any like corrective evolutionary pressure for. Right? that's why we get some of these really interesting statistics. Let me see if I can find it. I want my speech recognition. This is what's really weird. This is from the Sandwich paper. You guys know this. Dijkstra, Pinsky, Hahn, Channel. I think actually. Wait, is there more than paper? Okay, that's the Sandwich. They actually need to adopt appropriate goals, take appropriate action, given one's goals and beliefs, and bold beliefs are commensurate with available evidence. Intelligence tests measure many important things about thinking, but they do not directly assess the degree of rationality of thoughts. Thus, it is perhaps not surprising that intelligence is quite deeply related to at least some aspect of rational thought. This sounds weird, but basically, if you look at intelligence, this is kind of hard to understand. So I think about high IQ is a very strong beast that you're trying to leash. So high IQ is known to rumination. So what happens with people who are really intelligent, right? Is they'll come in office and they'll say, I have anxiety. And the problem is I know it's anxiety, but I can't get it to stop. So the animal at the end of their leash is so much stronger than they are. When it starts to think in a particular way, they have an undisciplined mind. And an undisciplined mind is really, really strong. If I have a 200 pound, 800 pound tiger at the end of the leash, it's going to be harder to control than like a 60 pound golden retriever. This is the problem that people with intelligence face. And this is really talk about rationality, which is like the ability to regulate your thinking. And we know this, right? Because we're smart, we sort of realize our thinking is kind of like, we don't think it is rational. It is rational. That's not the word that we use. We think we're rational. And this way of defining rational is being able to set appropriate goals and follow through, which is rational, right? We know we have we think we're thinking rational. But when our IQ is kind of too strong for us to control, it becomes undisciplined. That is a better word to use. And that gets out of control. And then we struggle with it. We have trouble restricting. So this is what's really interesting. If you look at income, talk about this like videos on spending for. If you look at IQ, the top 2% of IQ people in the world earn less money than the top 10%. Earn less money. The higher you go on the IQ scale, at some point it's kind of like, income increases with IQ, and you're lower, like this, and at some point it's clear, really, like the upper levels of IQ. Now, the interesting thing, sometimes people post and they say, okay, sometimes I get but I'm not gifted. I'm actually like 80 IQ, 70 IQ. What do I do then? What do I do if I'm literally have a low IQ? So here's what's really interesting. If you have low IQ, EQ or emotional capability is able to buffer that gap. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a quick do it. So you guys want to do this side math. You guys want to understand this about how to see what you have low IQ. Some people saying yes, and some people saying not really. Fine. Okay, I can find this. Okay, this is the code paper. Let's find this. Okay, so job performance that is not attained. So job performance that is not attained through cognitive intelligence may be attained through emotional intelligence by multiple complementary mechanisms. So first mechanism concerns expertise at identifying and understanding the emotions of other individuals. So what does this mean? This means that even if you can't do the job, understanding anger, sadness, things like that, understanding emotions of your colleagues is a huge way for you to succeed at your job. By helping your team members, even if you are incapable of doing work, correlates with job performance. In most, if not all jobs, organization members interact with supervisors, coworkers, sports, outsiders, customers, inspiration. So basically, this information may turn into high task performance by individuals with high emotional intelligence and low cognitive intelligence. So even if I'm not quite as good at the technical side of customer support, if I'm good at dealing with people, that'll work. Second mechanism by which emotional intelligence may enhance the job performance of individuals with low cognitive intelligence. It turns out regulating emotional influences quality of social relationships. Okay, so this is another really important piece. Oftentimes people I work with who are very high IQ, so predisposed to anxiety, ADHD, depression, there's lots of people about that in the lecture. So being able to regulate your emotions becomes harder the higher you climb in IQ. And so if you can manage your own emotions even at low IQ, that will improve job performance. And then third mechanism by which emotional intelligence may enhance job performance of individuals with low cognitive intelligence concerns the effects of emotions on how people think and act. So emotionally intelligent individuals with low cognitive intelligence may achieve high levels of task performance in most if not all jobs by managing their emotions in ways that enhance their motivation and the quality of their decisions. A manager who understands that anger tends to lead people to underestimate the degree of risk in situations may suppress anger before making an important financial decision and in turn exhibit good task performance. Right? So if you improve your EQ, you will understand the impact of your emotions on your decision making. And oftentimes when I work with people who are high IQ, what I will try to do is teach them this stuff. Okay? So in Dr. K's Guide to Meditation, we talk about the relationship between oneness and buddhi. Oneness is your emotional mind, buddhi is your analytical mind. And this is what's really interesting. You know, a lot of people who are highly intelligent do not appreciate or are not aware of the impact of their emotions on their thought process. So if I'm angry, that makes me more likely to underestimate risk. If I'm anxious, that makes me more likely to overestimate risk. And then I make my decisions based on that calculation because I trust my calculations. I don't understand that my emotions are in the background adjusting my calculations. And how you know this is what's tricky is your emotions for people with high IQ, they tend to use emotional suppression as a tactic. Right? They become hyper-rational. When you suppress your emotions, they don't turn off. They just start working behind the scenes. So what you're doing when you literally suppress your emotions is you're not shutting off the emotional circuitry of the brain. You're simply suppressing its ability to enter into your conscious awareness and take part of the conscious equation. So there's a part of your brain called the amygdala, which is where you experience anxiety. And the amygdala connects to your, let's say, anterior cingulate cortex and frontal lobes. This is the decision-making apparatus of the brain. So lots of different things enter this portion. Right? It's kind of like a council. The amygdala comes in as we're anxious about this. Nucleus comes in dopamine because yeah, we really want it. And they fight. And their frontal lobes are sitting there. That counseling there. What are your arguments for responding to this text because my ex? Nucleus comes and says, don't you remember how good your ex is? And that's what we want. And the amygdala is like, don't you remember how terrible your ex is? You're crazy, bro. You're crazy. This is going to go on. Nucleus comes like, no, like, this is like, the council member is like, we're going to go to Nucleus comes. That's literally what happens in the brain. Now when we suppress emotion, the anxious portion of our brain doesn't shut off. You just let it in the council chamber. But then the anxious portion of our brain still connects to other parts of the brain, including Nucleus comes. So that the anxious portion will affect your calculations that are subconscious. And so it still shapes you but without your knowledge. So if I'm working with someone with high IQ who's failing to live up to their potential, the solution is that you need to be smarter. You're plenty good at that. The solution is that you need to be more in touch with your emotions. So that literally means emotional awareness, emotional regulation. So what people with high IQ try to do is account for their emotion in their calculations. They'll say, okay, if anger increases risk assessment by 20%, let me amplify whatever risk assessment I have by 20%, and then it'll balance out. That's what it doesn't work. Instead, what you do is deal with the anger, and then your mind will think clearly. Your mind and your intellect and your emotions go to war with each other. And you need to work with both of them. You cannot, there's a really famous saying in psychiatry that you have to do right brain work with the right brain. You can't logic your way out of emotions. You can't logically process trauma. You have to emotionally process trauma. Your arguments against that, but you can't do it. So you know, giftedness absolutely comes with price. If you're struggling with like really trying to understand what your emotions are first and foremost, secondly, understand that dealing with your emotions directly is absolutely necessary. Maybe not absolutely, I'm going to go ahead and say this. Because if I tell you guys all like always around it, what are you thinking? Oh, how do I calculate? That's why I'm being so late to talk about all the things. Okay. Yeah, so someone's talking about being an EQ doesn't work in a doctor in India. Like, so I think I respectfully disagree. So India is so interesting. So I spent some time with psychiatrists in India a few months ago. Really eye-opening experience. So India is so interesting because the problem in India is the best thing about India is that they have respect for their elders. That's a big part of Indian culture. Have respect for their elders. I think the biggest problem in India is that they have respect for their elders. Because in India, if you're a junior, that means you know less than someone who's senior. And here's what's really scary about this. I pull up another paper. These association between physical and how people learn. Yeah, so the relationship between clinical experience and quality of healthcare. Overall, 52% of evaluations reported decreasing performance with increasing years of practice for all outcomes assessed. This is insane. Right? This is a huge problem. This is why India is held back so much. I don't know if you guys find India. I had an interesting question. It was like, why aren't there more Indian mega companies? So we have these like absolute mammoths coming out of China, Europe, and the United States. Right? We've got like Pfizer, and we've got like Sanofi, and we've got like Tencent, and we have Alibaba, we have like Tesla, we have Google, we have Netflix. Like, US is number one. We're just earth-shattering corporations. Half of their CEOs are Indian. China's like probably number two in terms of like just gross GDP of like companies and things like that. But India doesn't have much of the world. It's like 1.4 billion people. India's like one. It has to do with business respect. It's like one of the respect. So if you look at data, especially medicine, literally we just saw a paper that says the more years you're in practice, the more your performance declines. So in India, one of the biggest problems is if you're a young, brilliant person, you won't get anywhere. I mean, you will now. There's some people that have time with that. Right? There's a lot of entrepreneurs and people like started with Blinkit or whatever. All these guys. So you have a bunch of entrepreneurs that are very successful. People like Wonder and Rajmani, all these guys. So they're there. But it's disproportionate to what the other continents people are of other countries people. And especially in medicine, there's a lot of this. I'm older, therefore I know better. There's no room for young shoots to sprout out of the ground because these older trees are like overcoming that. There's this idea of superiority age. Even if you look at nutrition, I don't know if you guys ever designed you sort of like poking in the middle of those things. He was like a kid who wandered around India, age like 14 or 16, and started schooling noobs right, left, and center. So even if you look at the old way that India used to be, merit mattered more than age. The problem in India today isn't that EQ doesn't have any benefit. Actually, quite the opposite. EQ has a ton of benefit in India. The problem in India is that ego is a fruit. The problem in India is that we assume that if you've been in business for 30 years, you know better. But actually, if you look at chess players, really good example, all the best chess players, their age has been decreasing. If you look at expertise, age doesn't mean expert anymore, especially in clinical medicine, which is really scary. So I think that EQ doesn't matter in India in the sense that people don't have awareness of emotions. They don't talk about emotions. They don't care about emotions. That'll do. I'm generalizing. Maybe I'm wrong. I live in India. I used to spend a lot of time there. But I spent 1 month there in the last 15 years, which is 2 months. And so actually, I think in India, if you're very, very good with EQ, if you look at Indian like systems and Indian like households and stuff like that, you'll notice. So my mom once told me this story. I know it's a random side. We'll go back to it. My mom once told me something when I was 15 years old. She said, if you want to live a good life, live like Ram. Ram is one of the avatars of Vishnu. He's supposed to be the ideal man. Just live a happy life, live like Krishna. Krishna is also an avatar of Vishnu. Ram is Krishna's ends justifies means. Ram is sense does not justify means. You can do what's right or you can do what's clever. And both are acceptable. If you look at Ram and Krishna, what you'll find is that Ram Krishna has super high EQ. EQ is the root of sneaky. In Indian society today, you'll notice if you have all these family businesses, we have all these like joint households. The people who are emotionally savvy are the ones who do well. People who are able to read emotions, predict emotional behavior, manage other people's emotions, manage other people's ego, manage their own ego, not getting into stupid busy concepts because you're right and your professor's wrong. When you look at that and say my professor's wrong, there's no point in proving them wrong. I know what's right. I'm not going to stick my head up above the trench to get sniped by professors. So you're right that there is not an awareness of these emotional things in general in society today. I actually think EQ is probably the thing that if you train yourself the most, will probably have the biggest impact on your trajectory of success and happiness within India. Navigating modern law dynamics, what you need EQ, not IQ. Navigating the fact that your mom doesn't like your girlfriend because she's from a different caste. If you want to navigate that, you need EQ, not IQ. Right? All these like stupid petty things that happen in like Indian households, that's all EQ, not IQ. And we're trying to do is what we laud, what we applaud is IQ. I don't know. I don't know. That's what we applaud. What matters is EQ. What matters is slithering. Because India's a country where you have to slither. You can't just walk. You can't just walk. You know what I'm talking about? I also can't say I'm wrong. But like if you're already like I think about it. I've talked to enough people and I've seen it myself. Okay, do you have recommendations for getting better EQ? Studying our content does a lot of this. Just as a quick side. Question number 1. If you have an IQ, can it be improved? Not very much. If you have a low EQ, can it be improved? Actually, yes. Results show moderate positive effect training, okay? Regardless of design. So what's really interesting about this is there's lots of different training apparatus for EQ, and it's not like one way of learning it is better than the other, okay? And what we try to do, so the elements I can tell you guys a quick rundown more what EQ involves. So EQ can be subdivided into a couple of domains. Emotional awareness, emotional regulation, being able to read other people's emotions, okay? So the first thing you can be able to do is put your emotions into words. This is how you get better. And you may wonder, well, why is that? So this is what's really fascinating. So if you want to do something, like you're like trying to figure out a strategy, right? You're trying to figure out how do I solve this problem. And as you try to solve that problem, let's say that I feel lonely and I want to have a fulfilling romantic relationship. Okay? If I feel lonely and want to have a fulfilling romantic relationship, there's a strategy to do that. I can make up a profile on Hinge, I can go to speed dating events, I can join how to do this, I can do this, books, I can shape, I can do this, I can do all these things. So as you go try to do those things, emotions will arise. I'm lonely, but I have a situation. So I like to mouse, and I'm not going to mouse. Then what happens is the IQ person takes that and they try to solve that intellectually. How do I develop confidence? Okay, I'm going to do this. Right? Can I solve this problem? But this is the wrong problem to solve. So I'm lonely, I need to socialize, but I'm anxious. Switch to anxious is build confidence. How do I build confidence? Okay? The right thing to do is to actually increase awareness of the emotions that you're feeling. I feel anxious. You're feeling so much more than anxious. You're feeling ashamed because you're behind. You're feeling sad because you maybe should have done this a long time ago. You're feeling regret. You're feeling regret because you started this process 5 years ago. You're feeling angry at yourself for not starting this process 5 years ago. You're feeling angry towards other people who used to be nerds just like you, but then they put their lives together. You're feeling envy for those people. You're feeling jealousy of those people. You're feeling angry at the person that you're attracted to because they haven't noticed you yet, even though you're attracted to them. But it's illogical to feel angry towards the person that you're attracted to because why would they notice you? You're not all this crap is going on in your head subconsciously. If I lay it out for you now, you're like, oh, that tracks. Maybe you are aware. So something really interesting happens when you put emotions into words. In order for that to happen, your left brain communicates with your right brain. Your right brain is feeling lots of stuff. You're going to know what you're feeling. You feel bad. What do you say? Umbrella emotion. Umbrella emotion in the lexicon, which is colorblind emotion. How do I feel? You say frustration. Frustration is umbrella emotion. Is emotion that covers umbrella emotion. So in order for you to articulate, in order for both area, especially more so than one piece, both area to articulate what you're feeling, it has to communicate. That's the same thing. Hold on. So what do you feel? And then you force your right brain to calm down, and then your left brain makes sense of it, and then you can articulate. In that process, when you do that process neurologically, those emotions and the way that they affect your calculation automatically changes. So when you articulate your emotions, you are forcing the analytical part of your brain to understand exactly what your right brain is trying to say. And in that understanding, the rest of your left brain also gets that understanding. It's amazing. So people are like, what's the point of going therapy and talking about feelings? The point is right now your feelings are influencing all kinds of decisions that you're not even aware of. And simply articulating it gives access to the data set that the right brain is using to influence your decisions. It gives access to that data set to the left brain. That is why you articulate. Right? And we start the research on improvements that happen when you have high EQ. That's number 1. Become aware of your emotions. And that means articulate. Number 2, regulate your emotions. Allow yourself to feel. Deal with emotion directly. Don't suppress it. Don't distract yourself. Don't use drugs. Let yourself feel. And then the emotion will start to calm down. You use other forms of emotional regulation, like deep breathing or whatever. Let the emotion be and let it calm down on its own. You can also regulate it in more active ways. Sometimes like you don't be right. We're going to go 60 seconds. Calm down without even wanting to. So love space time. When else you use one 6 seconds. You're regulating emotions. Some ways regulating emotions. Some ways don't your face and eyes will consider this. So we think the reflex activates person versus some words. The other core component that I'll leave you with today is to be able to cultivate additional emotions. So if you look at people who suck at EQ, what happens in their life? They make bad decisions. Why do they make bad decisions? Because they feel emotion. I love that people constantly feel this. I'm anxious. Let me stay home. Those emotions are real. You need to learn how to cultivate additional emotions. When you feel in love, can you cultivate anxiety? I've done this a couple times. It's not such a big deal. It's a core EQ skill. Okay? When you're feeling sad and you're feeling ashamed about yourself, can you cultivate pride? The more one-dimensional your emotions are, the greater the likelihood that your EQ is. So the greater likelihood that you have times where people high EQ will feel such an intensity of emotion. If you know the breakup or whatever, right? And when you get better EQ, this is the impact it has. So I want you to think about how hard life is when you're intensely angry. You're just like, people on online video games just raging because you lost your lane. Oh my god, you're so bad. They're sitting at home, arguably entertaining themselves, arguably having fun, and they're busy raging at you on your end. So when we experience life with an intensity of emotion that we cannot control, life becomes a mess. Intense sadness, intense joy becomes a mess. These are the 3 core skills. So there are 2 other things I would encourage you all to do. One is over on the membership side. We have a deep dive into most of the major emotions and deep dives into things like emotional processes. There's one very video on the main channel available for everybody. If you guys really want to master your emotions, membership is the best. The second thing is as emotions relate to particular things. So for example, there's a video on Dr. Love relationships. It's all about relationships. There's several pieces in there that relate specifically to emotionality and relating to another human being. Right? So if you want to learn more about your emotions, the question is, do you want to learn about them within yourself, or do you want to understand how they impact your relationships? Because it's not either or, it's what you need to say. I guess someone's saying yoga can everything. Absolutely. Yoga is the cessation of fluctuations in the mind. That's what that means. Right? So peace and tranquility is when our mind no longer has fluctuations. When it is stable. A tranquil setting is not okay. Oh, this is interesting. You get membership subs. I also have gained a lot of memberships. Yeah, I don't think so. So I saw something else just picked up. Someone was like, hey, you documented that like React Stream to Manosphere documentary. Where is that? So we're working on that. There should be a cut that's uploaded to YouTube very soon. But part of the reason that we built memberships externally is because we run into some problems with YouTube. So since Manosphere is a copyrighted thing, if we just upload the straight VOD, we'll get taken down. We're not uploading the whole movie. We wouldn't do that on our platform. We're definitely within the realm of fair use. Right? So it's like less than 30%. Most of it is my commentary and things like that. On membership platform. It's like we have to play by YouTube's rules, which is nothing wrong with that. But some of the things that we want to do, but that by the way, watching was great, and we just can't do that. We literally can't do that. You know, it's legal. We just violation to us. That and there's all kinds of other functionality like discussion threads, right? As opposed to comments in the video or topical based. So we can do it on our platform, which is why we built it. There's lots of stuff we want to do. Turns out YouTube is not like a community platform. It is a video watching platform. So anything else about building a profile or anything like that, they can't do. I love it too. That's one of those things where like sometimes I wonder about doing things like that. I don't know how helpful it is. Right? So in my mind today we talked about free EQ techniques to help you if you've got low IQ to improve your performance at your job. That sounds to me like something that can literally alter the trajectory of someone's life. Fingers crossed. So it's like hard for you to do things like this. You're documentary. It feels indulgent. It's so fun. Look at me now. I need to be better at my emotions. You see how my emotions are affecting my calculations? So do streams always have to be helpful or is community good enough? I don't think it's a great question. I was going to answer, but tell me. What do you think? Can you do more meditations? Yes, I'm going to start doing more a lot more meditation at some point relatively soon, probably within the next year. Yes, thanks for the good subs. Balance well, right? That's what we kind of try to do. And people like gaming dosing went, I don't know, an hour. Right, so like right now I have an opportunity cost where I can like let go. It's like, what are we here to do? Like, are we here to play go? And speaking of opportunity cost, something I want to show you guys. So when we, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a couple things. So last month was mental wellness month. Mental wellness month. We launched Dr. K's Guide to Less Intense Relationships, and our stretch goal was 8,000 per weekend. And we're super clear about like, trying to be super clear about what we're doing with the money. So there's a pilot new secret show, which I would like to show you now. So for those of you all that thank you guys so much. We are aware that you guys so are doing that. Thank you for supporting us. Here's what you'll get. The bar is held. I was texting you. I have no idea what my looks like. I went into that marriage thinking like anything you do, I can do better. Welcome to Love Maxing with Dr. K. Show where we talk to real people about their real things. So I'm Dr. K, Harvard Trains and Today we're going to be meeting Mirabelle. Mirabelle is a single mother who is laser focused on her career. She's dedicated to what's scary about laser. We're going to discover how you can do everything right and still. I think that I just always been what you're doing, and then I'm trying to peace. After a while, I it's exhausting. I don't think I'm meant to be alone. It's the first time you really get to know her. And it seems like she's doing everything right. And that's why I don't do it. No, but it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. No, but I think if you're scared, there's a damn good reason. Like, this is the problem. There's certain things. There's like get some information. You're doing it right here. So now you're making narrative about your own fear. You're saying there's nothing to be afraid of. It's really profound here. And then we unpack this idea. There's only so much you can control. And the really scary part is that sometimes no, I do this thing where when I think of something that is my 5 years off, I've already lived. That's not really. I think I can figure out. I can do this. And we make these sources help people think. Like Dr. K's Guide to Love Language. So what I really love about this is it shows how hard it is to see your own blind spots. Okay, so I don't know why I started lagging so much. Oh my god, I think it's something. I don't know if it's that scene. No, I don't know. So thank you guys very much. And here's that. Okay, so this is like we had to change the way we did interviews. And yeah, what's I doing now? So one of the big things that we were careful about is sometimes people come on stream. It's less than 1%. People will be like concerned about what they display in the live stream. So especially when it comes to love, sex, relationships, we wanted to give people a chance to say, hey, cut this out. Right? So for this topic especially, like different ways like you're talking to streamer about whatever. But for this topic specifically, we wanted to be careful and give people a chance to say, hey, I don't want this. So yeah, thank you guys very much for supporting us. This is coming down the pipeline. I don't know exactly what's coming out, but soon the interview's not there. And then depending on how it goes, we'll like either do more or do less. So keep us posted on what you guys like. Yeah. There's a bunch of questions about and Jedi stuff. I guess that's what I'm interested in. They'll be on YouTube. Did I close the spaces in there properly? I hope so. Yeah, we're going to do okay. Yeah, okay, can you give me a summary today's session? That's gonna be hard because we touched that one thing. But what I can do, let's do. You guys want to do one more? You can give me a summary. We're gonna do. That's my thoughts. We're gonna do the solid of just to close all these studies. This is one I just want to show you all. This is really interesting. Psychotherapists improve with time experience. So longitudinal analysis of outcomes in the clinical setting. However, a very small, statistically significant change in outcomes is detected, indicating that on the whole, therapist patient pre-post need to diminish as experience or time increases. Okay, so I think this basically suggests that there's very little change, and showing therapist improvement despite the overall tendency of outcomes to decline. Because basically what the study found is that by a small amount, the longer you're in practice, the worse your outcomes get. But the really interesting thing is that there's a high degree of variability in this data. So even on average, it's very slight decline. Some people continue to improve, and some people fall off. So on average, it's a slight net loss. So there's high degree of individual practice variability, which I think you'll understand, right? Which explains why so many people have amazing experiences in therapy, and so many people have terrible experiences in therapy, and why sometimes working with a less experienced psychiatrist or psychotherapist, you may get way more help working with someone who's more experienced. More experience doesn't actually mean better. Thanks for my guy, Ethan. Now, do I speculation for what counts for variability? Yes, I do. Speculation. I did. So the number one thing, so when I was doing my internal orientation, we had a chief of anesthesia coming to us lectures, all the incoming interns. Chief of anesthesia said, this was some really interesting data. He said that the quartile of your skill is a doctor. So whether you're in the top 25%, 75%, bottom half, bottom quarter, whether you're top or bottom, does not correlate with experience. Within the first 2 to 5 years of clinical practice, the doctors will separate themselves out. So basically, you'll get calibrated to your rank, just like in video games. And just like in video games, most people's rank does not improve with number of games played. Right? So in video games, you have people who are at bronze rank and have 5,000 hours. Same with doctors are the same way. You either enter the top quartile, second, third, or fourth. And you basically stay there over the course of your career. So what is responsible for it? It is your method of learning. So the people who are active learners during medical school, after medical school, and continue to be active learners 20 years in, versus the people who are like, I've been doing this for 20 years, I know, versus I've been doing this for 20 years, man, there's so much I need to learn. Okay? Case in point, like today I showed you guys like 9 papers, 10 papers. These are the papers that I read over last week, right? So the number one thing is your attitude towards learning and whether you think you know it. And just like people who are in bronze ring games or silver games, they know it all. They're just in the trench. They're because it's same basic psychology. Right? So your heart stuck on gold and marble rivals you to change the way that you learn. Do you think burnout or strategies to prevent that count for those second or third? I don't understand the question, Dr. Is there any profession which there's a positive correlation with mastery and age? I don't know. I don't read manga. I want to. So here's one thing that I think is, yes, burnout. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. But let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys want to talk about burnout and performance in this quartile business, or do you want to show ultimate and you guys tell me what you want to explain it, or do you want me to talk about burnout and performance excellence? Your choice. Let's review your answers to the question. Where are your sunglasses? And when was the last time you did? No. Are you thirsty? Yes. Do you have water? What do you drink? Nope. What was that noise? Before you and you and how many times did you yours? Which makes you feel like you know your and when was the last time you started eating hobbies? Are you pizza making? Same words. That makes sense. And your pizza has been for your build with how much you are. How many play live? How many days you have a day? Between 1 and 300,000 and how many do you execute? And finally, you start action movie with medication and abilities and card you and whether it is. First one, you're 80 you're 45 minutes. You guys tell me, do you want to talk about performance and quartiles, or do you want to talk about what's going on here? Okay, we have poll once. Everybody wants to all do both. Everybody wants to all. Let me see. See, this is so hard. It's like there's no end. Okay. Yes, this is interesting. I like this. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, so I don't know if it's polling YouTube. It's polling you. Oh, that's so interesting. Wait, are you guys trying to 50-50, bro? Come on, guys. See, remember earlier I said there's a difference between Twitch chat and YouTube chat, right? It's like I'm asking for your help. I'm asking you for help, and you guys just no polls on YouTube. I know. I know. On YouTube polls. But quartiles. There we go. Yeah, I agree with this. Let's talk about it. So those of you that quartiles, we'll do something about it. I have not forgotten that we're not interested anyway. Let's just see how long this takes. See if I go on a rant, then maybe take a little while. If I don't go on a rant, then maybe we'll have time. Just make sure that I'm going to be anywhere. Yes, I have no job. So we're going to watch this again. So this is an AHT assessment. I'm going to take notes. So we understand what is going on here. What to do. Let's review your answers to the questionnaire. Question 1: where are your sunglasses? And when was the last time you did? No. Are you thirsty? Yes. Do you have water? What do you drink? Nope. What was that noise? For you and you and how many times did you yours? Which makes you feel like you know your and when was the last time you started eating hobbies? Are you pizza making? Same words. That makes sense. Your pizza has been for your build with how much you are. And your play live. How many days you have a day? Between 1 and 300,000 and how many do you execute? And finally, you start action movie with medication and abilities and card you and whether it is. First one, you're AHT. So what we're going to do is go through each of these things that they describe and talk about how they connect to AHT. So first thing is that easy. So we know that AHT has timelines. Okay. Second thing is the questionnaire. Do you fill out the questionnaire? No, I forgot. This is executive function and or disorganization. The water thing I'm not sure about. Do you have water? Are you thirsty? I was kind of confused about that one. Maybe I'll chime in. Is that like something that you guys always struggle with? I can't remember water or not. So next thing is birthday. This is a big one. Okay. So birthday. Set reminder. Reminders. This is the other interesting thing, right? Like the reminder was from a while ago. They still haven't turned it off. They've forgotten for 7 years. Friends are important to me. This makes me feel bad. This was really interesting. Really so that I like the economy between you forget to eat or drink. That's all. Like bodily signals. So adopting new hobbies, impulsivity, and then they have cobwebs, which is lack of follow-through, right? So this one also executive function. Plan is dead. This is also impulsivity. This kind of things. How many ideas you have? This I'm going to call association. And then the last thing is this thing where he says, if you had to write a thank you card, otherwise humanity would die. What would happen? Things like everyone dies. So we're going to talk about I6 and how I6 impedes action. Right? So there was an interesting paper. We're going to talk about all these things. Right? There's an interesting paper that came out maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago that did an analysis of ADHD short form content, I think specifically on TikTok, and found that something like 90% of it was like wrong in some way. So there's a lot of bad information about ADHD on the internet. I actually think this one is pretty good because each of these things we can describe, we can characterize and describe in a particular way. The first problem with this is that when oftentimes we see a piece of content like this, like, oh yeah, this is me, I have ADHD, this is me. Right? Don't like about this is the finality of it. Right? So this is our experience, and when we hear that a million other people have our experience, what we don't hear is a million people who are able to change it. Right? So if you have an ADHD, just 6 seconds about all the problems that ADHD causes, that will way outperform what actually works because that requires down nuance. Right? This stuff against 800,000 views. There's no way that my reaction to it will get that. Even though I do have what's in 800,000 million multi-million views. So that's a challenge. So let's start with timelines. Okay. So clinical implications of structure, time, attention, deficit, hyperactivity disorder, review, time perception, children with attention deficit disorder, this is paper, time perception differences in children with and without ADHD. There's a whole video we have. Find your down time, daily relationship between chronic self-control resources and phenomenon of procrastination. There's a lot of papers about this. So I'm going to give you guys a quick overview of this stuff. Okay. So what causes time blindness in ADHD and how we fix it? So the first thing is we have an internal biological clock that measures how long things take. In people with ADHD, that basic capability is impaired, which frustrates the neurotypical people around us a lot because they're like, I told you what time to be here. Why are you always late? How long does it take you to 45 minutes to get here? Why don't you just leave at 5:15 to be here by 6? So the reason this is so confusing is they will lay it out for you so easily. Right? And that makes sense cognitively. The problem is that theoretical thing does not translate to your frontal lobes to actually plan action. It's kind of like telling someone, okay, how do you not recognize a tree has branches and leaves and flowers? If flowers are red, that means it's a rose. How do you not understand this is a rose bush? Because you're blind. Like that's that middle step of, oh, this makes sense to my head, which neurotypical people have no idea that there is a process between makes sense in my head, therefore I do it. That fundamental gap has to be translated by your brain. And time blindness is a good example of this. There's another really interesting thing about time blindness, which is that you have people with ADHD don't know how long something takes. So start planning your day. Why is it hard to plan your day? Well, because I have 15 minutes of class application. How long will it take? Between 15 minutes and 15 hours. That's why it's hard to plan because you have no idea how long something takes. There's another interesting thing. Another interesting reason why it's hard to plan for your day is because when you do a task, if you have no internal biological clock, your brain gets no data about how long that takes. Does that make sense? So I sat down to do something neurotypical person like I sat down around this time. How long did it take? How long were you lying at the end? I was lying for half an hour. Your internal biological clock is measuring things. When it measures how long something takes, subconsciously without knowledge, you can also plan because now your brain knows, oh, go to the DMV, that is 30 minutes. That is missing in ADHD. So a big part of what we like teach about ADHD doing stuff is what are the tools that you can use to overcome that. So the simple example, people with ADHD, their sensory input is very, very robust. So you see something, you hear something, you get distracted, what you see and what you hear sinks in, which is why utilization of like organized planner or something where you measure your time in some way. So this is like some ADHD stuff. Okay? And then like, so this is what I like measurements. I'm working on, I started this time on this day and I worked for this many minutes. And I just happened to have what games I chose not to play. It was much stories and unicorn words. So literally externally measuring things, writing things down will help your brain. Second question, did you forget to do the question? So neurotypical people can remember to do this. Now remembering to do something is actually really strange if you think about it. This is one of the weirdest things in the brain. This is one of the I'm on my way home from work and I'm about to take the exit off the highway to return to my home. When I remember, I need to pick up some stuff. So, oh, I was about to take the exit. I don't take the exit. I do one more exit on my way and I pick up. I want to think about how weird that is. I forgot something and then I remember. Do I control the remembering? Absolutely not. My brain remembers and my brain floats to my surface. The surface of my consciousness. I did this. So neurotypical person takes this for granted. The fact that you can remember is bizarre. To remember means that you forgot. If you forgot, you don't control whether you remember or not. That's the experience of memory. Well, sometimes I remember and sometimes I forget. So what we know about people with ADHD is that their executive function and their inability to remember things makes it so that organization becomes really important. Particularly sensory input becomes really important. I will never remember where I put my keys. So I always put them in the same place. I know where the keys belong, but I won't remember where they are. Which brings us to another really interesting thing about ADHD is that a lot of problems with ADHD, the reason we don't solve them is because we try using neurotypical strategy. And neurotypical strategy won't work. Right? So if we're blind, we can't navigate with sight. We need a stick. If you have a stick, you can edge. So this is what ADHD is where you won't remember where you put it. That's why there must be one place where it goes. Do not, I love this phrase. Don't put it down, put it away. Put it where it belongs. So I found working with patients, this is a big thing that we're going to focus on. Is half the problems that you have are way easier to solve than you realize if you do them in a particular way. Now, building up habits in that way is not simple. It's way easier. So like a big problem with ADHD is preventing certain steps of this process, which is really where the problem lies. So if I always put things where they belong, I will never lose them. Right? When a neurotypical person can afford to be lazy, we cannot. So if you really think about it, how hard is it to, in my case, in your house, you have a nice little key thing right by the door, and that's where the keys are. And what's infuriating to me is since I lose my keys a lot, I always put my keys in the same place. My wife does not have ADHD. She does not put her keys where they belong. So I have she misplaces her copy of the key, and then she takes my copy of the key. And then I go to drive a car, I can't find my keys. I know now she's lost two sets of keys. If my keys are reliably in one spot, and her keys are elsewhere. So now I end up leaving keys, and then I have to do it. By the way, this is really interesting. So if you have ADHD, are you better finding the things that your partner misplaces than what you misplace? I would bet money that the answer to that question is true. Yes, we all do. Now I figured out where to find the keys that she misplaces. Because it's a pattern or order. That was my misplacement. It's absolutely chaos. Okay? So this is where if you forget to do questionnaires, if you forget to do things, you need to create a system where you're prompted in a sensory way. So like questionnaires are paperwork goes in a particular place that you check on a daily basis. You don't rely on, oh, do I need to do something when I'm using mechanically, you look through what you need to do. So the example is when I'm using an electronic health record and things like that. When I go to the office, first thing I do is I log in my EHR and I see what my tasks for the day. What I do the night before I go to bed is check my calendar, and I wake up in the morning, check my calendar. And it goes in the calendar and goes out of my day. Next thing I know, we talk about bodily signals. So this happens a lot. This is kind of like hyper-focus. So oftentimes with ADHD we get so hyper-focused on something. This isn't just ADHD. This is neurotypical video games, for example. When we get really hyper-focused on something, we will oftentimes suppress our bodily signals. And then when we have a break of some kind, we realize, oh my god, I'm so thirsty. And so oftentimes the right move there is to once again structure the way that you consume food and the way that you drink water. So this is where oftentimes what I try to do is have lunch ready when I'm done streaming. Because I will help with things like this for me. But when I'm done lunch, it's usually ready. If it's not ready, then I'm eating breakfast. I'm so hungry. And a really strange thing about being really hungry, which is typical ADHD, anything more intense, typical ADHD, when you're really hungry, you want unhealthy food way more than you want
healthy food. But healthy food will satisfy you way more than it will if you're not starving. So you want the food that you want. You want a hamburger so much, but you will be way more satisfied with salad when you are starving. And when you are not starving, a salad will satisfy you less. A burger will be more enjoyable because it's fatty and it's delicious, and the protein in there is got umami, and got pickles, mayo, mustard, or whatever. This is also really hard. Sometimes when we're really hungry, hungry, right? You want to eat better than healthy. You'll notice something interesting. If you want to cook when you're starving to eat food, you'll love the fruit way more as well. So usually when I work with people with ADHD or we're just trying to eat healthy, we try to lean into this. Next thing, this is what I spend a little bit of time. Okay, this is a reminder. Do a birthday card for my friend. Okay, we talk about executive function, we talk about everything, we talk about sensory input. The biggest challenges in ADHD, in my opinion, are not the first level challenges. They're the challenges that we layer on top. Okay, so friends are, so this is what I've got that is probably not self. Then remind us something kind of interesting. I've forgotten 7 years in a row. So interesting that it remembers that. You guys notice that my mind is really good. Oh yeah, I forgot what keys are. But it's really good keeping track of how many years I've forgotten this kind of thing. So not only do I forget my friend's birthday card, now my mind is keeping track of it and it's making me feel worse because I have a very good resolution into how bad I'm doing. And then it does something even more interesting, which is it says, oh, do you care about your friends? Yes, I value my friendship so much. And then it does something kind of interesting. I value my friendship so much and I fail. And since I value my friendship so much, I feel so much worse about myself. You guys see how that works? And I'm so quick to collaborate for 7 years. But I care about my friends and they got me one. And so you kind of like beat yourself up very, very quickly. So this is where there's also emotional reactivity in ADHD. There's an emotional dysregulation subtype, which some people are advocating its own classification. So attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There's two subtypes. Inattention predominant, hyperactivity predominant, or makes it two combo. And they're like, okay, let's do emotional dysregulation. If you really look at what this is dysregulation of your emotions. And here's how this works. Every day when you get a reminder, you are reminded that you forgot the birthday card. That reminder that you forgot the birthday card activates the emotional circuits that need to be built. And once my guilt emotional circuitry gets hyperactivated, right, let's think about what's happening here. I hear a reminder. Guilt pops 100. Literally, action is alarm on. Response is guilt goes 100. We're unaware that it's guilt. Then what happens when the guilt circuitry activates? It manifests as thoughts. It's been 7 years. You care about your friends. Look at you caring about your friends. How about that? You care about your friends. You've forgotten 7 years in a row. It's like bludgeoning you with these thoughts. And there's an identification with I am a bad friend. So I love to cite this paper. Really interesting. If you look at the comorbidity between people with ADHD and depression, 3% of people who are diagnosed with depression will grow up to have ADHD. 70% of people who are diagnosed with depression will grow up to have. 70% of people with ADHD will grow up to have depression. So the ADHD is not just about time blindness, suppression of bodily sensations, executive function deficit, emotional dysregulation. It is also about the consequences of living with those things. I'm an idiot, I'm reliable, this, I'm that. We have the first layer of primary symptoms, and then we layer on top of that things that are harder to beat. And here's the tricky thing. If I start someone on a stimulant medication, it only works on layer 1. It doesn't really work on layer 2. It starts layer 2 because it reduces the activity of my guilt circuit. But it doesn't change my sense of identity, which is why I really love this. What we use people. Psychotherapy is equally effective for medication. It's the same exercise, the same. When I work with patients with ADHD, I like to use psychotherapy because you have this identity component. You're not a bad friend. You're not a bad person. You have this problem. Okay, we're actually jump to this. Number 9, 6. There's one thing that's very, very, very annoying about ADHD. So if you look at motivation and action, as something called salience increases, salience is importance. As the importance of an action increases, your motivation increases with it. So, oh, it's not going to pick up milk. Not that big a deal. Oh my god, I got tonight. I really got a bottle of wine on the way. As something becomes more important to you, your motivation towards that increases. Start to get patients with blood pressure. Because if you take blood pressure, you don't deal with it. You don't deal with it. So you don't deal with it. So how about you really nice symptoms? You know, like 160 damage to your life from years not feeling. But I noticed in my patients with ADHD that high stakes is paralyzed, not motivated. Most people, as the stakes increase, our motivation increases. ADHD seems to have the opposite. And even in neurotypical people, there comes a point where if the stakes elevate to a certain point, we become overwhelmed and we become paralyzed. Now, one of the mechanisms for this is when we have sympathetic nervous system response, when our body gets turned on, not only like sexual too. So when our body is facing stress, tiger in the jungle, I'm taking my final exam, my body's like, we need to be active. So adrenaline increases, cortisol increases. And when our sympathetic nervous system activates, fight or flight is what we talk about the symptoms. The third element is freeze, fight, flight, or freeze. So we know that when an animal is being hunted, it'll run away, it'll fight or play dead. And so there's a point where you like with trauma, right? Like there's a moment where we try to run, but then we freeze. So when I work with patients who have been sexually assaulted, they will sometimes do this, sometimes fight, sometimes they'll do dissociate and lockdown and freeze. And that lockdown is triggered by a high level of sympathetic activity. They feel overwhelmed, stuck. Because this seems to happen more often in patients with ADHD. The reason for that is, remember, there's an emotional dysregulation subtype, right? So emotions skyrocket, and when emotions are very, very, very high, that is what can trigger the freeze response. I'm gonna throw down with you when I'm not mildly angry, when I'm absolutely pissed, when I'm so angry. I'm not gonna dead ass run away if I'm like a little bit anxious. The more fearful I am, I'm terrified, I'm just gonna run, I'm stopping and run. I feel overwhelmed and lockdown. This is why it's so hard for my patients, because the more important things are, the harder it is for them to actually act. So when they want to act, most it becomes the hardest to act, right? So it's such a beautiful example because like, if the fate, can you write a thank you card, it's not that big a deal. Yes, if the fate depends on that pressure, activates us emotionally. I don't know if activates the dissociation mechanism in the brain, but it really causes us to shut down for sure. To feel locked down, to feel paralyzed. Lockdown is a better subjective thing from patients that I work with. They feel like they're stuck or paralyzed, like they can't do it. Okay? So then what happens is this aspect of high stakes, how important are friendships to you? How important are friendships to you? The more important they are, the more the stakes increase, the more that you lock down, which makes you feel even worse and leads to low self-esteem, leads to low things like that. Okay? So this is what's really serious. Now this is where there's an element of work that oftentimes people with ADHD miss, which is like, how do I deal with this? Actually, the way to deal with this is to deal with the association, right? There's a chain of for 7 years. Relationships are important. I am bad. And so people will come in and say, how do I have self-esteem back? And they try to work on this problem, confidence, in isolation. Whereas actually what we need to do is this is this. If we can break the chain, this melts. So notice the association, notice the way your mind jumps from one thing to another thing to another thing. You'll say, okay, all those things are true. I'm saying not true. What I'm saying is that as you lose attentional control of your mind, this is why mindfulness meditation helps so much in ADHD. Because I want you to think about what is really happening in this scenario. The event is an alarm goes off, and the result is I am bad. I'm not disputing the logic of any of these. So I'm encouraging you all to notice is just see how when an alarm goes off, I feel like crap. It's this daisy chain, so we're going to stop the attention, we're going to shift our attention away from this process. Restrain the mind, and then we restrain the mind, direct the mind, make A hard, then get excited about it, make 6 more, then male 1 overnight, male 1, but it 2 to 3 shaping, then regular, then be male, right 1 month, then 1 month later. So instead we do this every day when the alarm goes off. Instead actually it's simple. And this is what's so cool about working with situations. It's all of these things. Now this too is something that is really important. So I have new bodies. I love this example. So I can make like my meetings. So I'm showing you guys that. I'm checking out right. Well, I'm working on the e-chain. But when you do this again, I'm thanks some everybody else working, and I'm reading about fiction, and I'm going to draw, and I'm focusing this on e-chain because I never really understood what the e-chain is. Right, so new hobbies, very impulsive. There's a lot of excitement. So I want to do this. I want to do so cool. So then we have a problem with follow through. So one of the biggest things that I try to help people do is when people come to me and say, how I follow through, but that's not what you need to do. The circuit in your brain that acts impulsively turns on and then turns off. When it's on, you're motivated. When it's off, you're demotivated. So we're a piece of cobwebs for years. Really, right? That's the scenario. So actually, what we need to control is not the discipline to follow through. What we need to control is starting in the first place. If we start to separate action from impulsivity, if we act impulsively, and impulsiveness is what gets us to act. And when impulsiveness goes away, we won't follow through. The secret to follow through is not secret to follow through. So not stop. You cannot quit or abandon if you never stop. Literally, so here's the cool thing. Okay, this is weird neuroscience, so I'm like, it's legit. So action is motivated by all kinds of things. Nucleus accumbens, dopamine, emotions, impulsive. So like all these things can. So when I restrain my impulsivity, this is my frontal lobe blocking this and preventing that action. This is also the same part of my brain that gives me follow through. The ability to plan and execute tasks over a long period of time is not my frontal lobe. So literally the same part of your brain that does follow through is the same part of your brain that does not behave impulsively. That restrains your impulse. It's the same part of your brain. It's to act deliberately. Act deliberately means act follow through. Deliberate. It's the same circuit. Stopping the impulse is the follow through. Literally, same circuit of the brain, same function. And the way that works, another way to understand this is right. So earlier, to disassociate impulsivity from action, to be able to train yourself to act out of things that are not impulsive. Right? As long as you're acting out impulsively, that circuit will not grow. Right? You're stopping one circuit, you're pruning some neurons, and we're strengthening other synaptic connections. So this one's huge. Right? While I'm learning lots of things, I also have this schedule on my calendar. Right? So like I'm using organization to be able to do all. You guys saw my spreadsheet with various words that I wrote, times that I wrote. So I'm not just buying books on fiction, I'm actually writing. And I have a scheduled time that I go to our class for 2 hours a week. And so if you schedule it, you'll do it. If you get prompted by it, you'll do it. If you have to show up, you will show up. Right? Make sure you set the timer. You know where your keys are. You'll see what you'll see in one place. I have everything in place, and then I'm out the door. I'm checking my calendar. The impulsivity is also the idea is how many ideas you have. 1 to 3,000 a day. How many do you do none? This is also impulsivity. Why do you do none of them? Because you're impulsive. If you rely on your impulse, you'll start on a dozen and you'll finish none. If you disassociate impulsivity from action, if you start to act without impulsiveness, and you restrain yourself from acting when you get excited. I mean, literally restrain yourself. Like, say that I'm not going to order this book. I feel like I'm not going to. And another impulse will come up. You check your calendar. You look at what you do next. It's amazing. ADHD, when I work with people, it feels like a set of dominoes. So the first one is like Stonehenge. But once one thing gets better, what's really scary about is all of these deficits cascade. A snowball becomes an avalanche. And now suddenly I am a fundamentally bad person. Because each of these statements is logically true, but it's the process that my brain literally what happened today. My alarm went off, and then I feel like crap the rest of the day. Okay, it can get better. Yeah, so you guys say you schedule reading section, like, so that's something that I have struggled with. I struggle to schedule things on my calendar and stick with them because I'm the one who's showing up. So I schedule reading time for myself. It doesn't work. I figured that out. But what I will do is capitalize on the impulse. If I was looking at this the other day, I wrote 2,448 words in 85 minutes at 10:38 on Saturday. So this is what's really interesting. If ADHD stops messing up your life, it's amazing like how much you can get done in 85 minutes. So do I write 500 words a day? That's the advice they give me. Right? 500 words a day. I write 500 words. Once we sit down and bang out 2,448 words. The other thing I like about tracking this stuff, like this feels good. I was never intending to show this, but like it's not just seem great to me all because I like this thoughts in my head. Like now I think this. So it's like I feel really good. I feel so good looking at those numbers rack up. Sorry, y'all, my kids need me, so I need to go. But thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you all for all the support. People are asking questions about. If you guys want more info, check out ADHD. But we're gonna be dropping the first interview I think soon. So stay tuned. And yeah, oh, actually before I go, I want to show you. I have a dilemma. So I want to play Warhammer 3, and I'm getting tired of the current champion I'm playing. So I played this a while ago. I really like Kyle because I think it's like kind of straightforward, right? And I like Wars, love Wars, but I like Casters. So then I played Skaven, love Skaven. I love the complex Undercity dynamic. And then I played Chaos Force, absolutely love Chaos Force. So now I'm thinking about playing Fae. I don't like Tzeentch. They were my favorite faction in the tabletop and I really played that. That was cool. All the units just seem weak. We'll do Core Tiles later. I'll know. But do you guys have a... I tried Dark Elves. I didn't really enjoy them too much. But do you guys have like a suggestion? If I like Chaos Force, I like Skaven. I tried a little bit of Dark Elves. The Wizard might feel too slow. Like, the battles just take a long ass time. Like healing focus, total war. Sorry, I can't help it. No problem. Do you guys have any help? You tried Deadlock? Yeah, Deadlock is an amazing game that I think is way less fun than I don't know why. I just want to play it. I think we'll kind of too far. It was fun at the beginning. They're fun. I'll fight one. I was thinking about... Okay. No problem. Am I excited for Warhammer 40K? No, I'm like a fantasy sci-fi guy for the most part. Imperials is not Empire, right? I want like interesting campaign mechanics, like overworld mechanics with like it's hard to describe like fun units. I'll try Chaos. With Chaos faction, so I kind of like overworld Tzeentch, like stealing things. So I just don't like their army all. It just feels like a bunch of paper. And I like spellcasting, but spellcasting is I mean, may survive to it. But okay, I'll try one. Yes, it's just two words I kind of like. Yeah, I like the chaos resource management. I like having a really strong army that's supported by a really big economy. Oh, corn has a magic. Okay, maybe I'll like it. I'll give it a shot. I'll try it. Yeah, I was thinking about Nurdles like on my list. Big Nurdles like this. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Okay, thanks. Take care. We'll see y'all. Yeah, stay tuned. I don't know when I'm streaming. Take care, everybody.
Oh wait, hold up. there's something. Yeah, there's something of something. The ancientification of whatever the fuck. The days of that, of that. But yeah, some of those videos. Where is it? Oh no, not quite there. Yeah, there's something of something. There's something of something. There's something of something. Just wondering, is anybody? Oh.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a pretty poisonous topic where the only way move is not to play. In regards to covering the H3 versus IDubbbz lawsuit, sometimes you turn the show to see if it's still hot. And boy, howdy, is it ever. Like I always said, I treat the channel like that. I just blabber about things that I feel like talking on. Just sitting in my chair, getting my little 5 foot 6 ladies around and just giving my thoughts from a little steel trap up here. And one topic I've always covered is creator lawsuit. So when I heard about the H3 versus IDubbbz defamation case, I wanted to take a peek into it, stick my teeth in there and see what's going on, because that is a pretty wild thing. And learn about it I did, like a little it was a new lawsuit. It was only public knowledge for 24 hours, so I did as much research on it as I could and watched the IDubbbz stream that started it. That is like the main catalyst of it. I watched the H3 stream where he explains his lawsuit, and I talked to both parties. IDubbbz ended up trying to get the clearest, most complete picture of everything going on here, and I just gave my view on it from the old 48. I just heard about the H3 versus IDubbbz defamation lawsuit, spent the last 3 or so hours learning about it and getting the nitty-gritty, all the bits and pieces, all the information I could find to really put the figure out what all is, and it is a real thing. The pugilistic legal paperwork has been filed against IDubbbz, so now they're going to do double sandwiches by extremely expensive litigation. But even if the actual story here, there's just something that my teeth. There's something that grinds my gears, reasons I keep so I can't resist. Yeah, I was interested in information about what all this is about. I've seen people say, and I refuse to cover these kind of things for a variety of reasons. I'm boring, it isn't that. I don't have any time to do this. I just really not online these days. So streams I watch like summer games fest and events like that. I don't watch streams. I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't go on Twitter. Like I still have Twitter because I send it by DMs sometimes for like events. I ones legal I've heard from him on Twitter. So I have reasons like that. I don't like doom scroll Twitter. So I don't see all of these things online anymore. So really tell a lot of stuff. I refuses to cover. The things I do about my friends and or my stream chat telling me about them on my radar. But neither of those two avenues show to me or tell me that it's never. And I'm not fucking stream anymore. Not full time. I semi stream. Sometimes I stream like replays in a row. But basically, just like old school games, a lot of retro games, a lot of Steam dumpster games, like actual trash. So I'm not even really streaming, so I don't see a lot of that either. So it's not me avoiding certain things for a I literally don't ever hear about it, so I never learn about it. Now there is some stories I do hear about it, like everything for like very loose. So I also got my friends and stream chat and just not online that much, so I don't see a lot of it. So I did spend the last 3 hours learning about this defamation lawsuit between H3 and IDubbbz because that did sound pretty certain. Because there's always been like unwritten rule on the internet where there's beef online, it stays online, and you can handle it online without going over that threshold of trying to use litigation to silence your opponent or something like that. That had always been etched in the stone tablets of the 10 commandments of online discourse. And now all of a sudden I'm hearing about H3 suing IDubbbz for defamation. So obviously I wanted to hear about that. And after that, I did the cannonball in the pool. I learned he has a lot of active lawsuits against 586 against other streamers and YouTubers. So it's a bit of a rampage. I knew about one before all this was against the Snark community. That I did hear about. And that one made a lot of sense actually. Snark community firewall was some diabolical, like harassing, talking stuff that sending CTS. I remember that between souls. They're called Snark community. So it makes sense that you're litigation there because it's highly illegal fucking psychopath behavior. So that one I remember, and that one made sense to me. When I was learning the other ones, I pretended to be all this really lots of influence on defamation. But even guys become like Nintendo YouTubers, he's extraordinarily litigious. Anyway, what started this defamation lawsuit was this IDubbbz stream.
Okay, this is my watermark for the stream. I don't want any of my content being stolen. I'm sorry, Fazzy. I'm broken couchy ads these days. Okay, so I do want to say I don't agree with what's being said in this comment here, but I'm putting it on screen because I think it should be addressed because it's a big bold accusation. It's very fucked up.
It is very fucked up. And it's despicable that you think it's a good idea to post that there while knowingly aware that it's not true. So the message is this comes from Destiny, and he found this screenshot and he kept it on screen for a very long time. And he said he didn't agree with it because it needs to be addressed because it's so fucked up. It is a terrible stream. Just give it to a real raw. It is no good. And I'm no stranger to getting shit talked by IDubbbz. He has said some very nasty, very untrue things about me on his broadcast as well. But what is being reported in regards to this stream isn't exactly telling the whole story. When I first heard this lawsuit, I was reading about it, but I wanted more information like directly associated with it to make sure I wasn't getting like fraudulent and shit fed to me. So I reached out to someone whom I know is on the H3 team, and Ethan did hear about that, so he did talk directly about me on his show and challenged me on a few things, and I did eventually get to talk directly with Ethan. I shared my full perspective on things and the problems I had around it, my concerns, and got his perspective on things, his misunderstandings and such. Ultimately, I don't think we fully saw eye on this, which I fully understand this is a very emotionally charged subject format after everything that's happened with Snarkers. In particular, I know that the CPS and Human Souls incident are like a legitimately traumatizing thing. I'm CPS call, but I get how inexcusable and abhorrent that is. I really do. I just truly don't believe that this lawsuit is in any way, shape, or form helpful to anyone. Outside lawyers, they're fucking smiling here, shouting right now, literally drooling with one. But it's harmful to like everyone involved and does have potential ramifications for others way outside. I have never and will never be a fan of extreme litigation, and I've always been vocally advocating against creators going that nuclear path. And I always, of course, cases where it is like I said, going after the Snarkers that sent the fraudulent CPS thing through and sold that. But this one I could never support that, and I just can't see the real just cause behind it. And I think it is a terrible example for other creators in the space to follow, where they believe that even though this is about like a Canadian defamation lawsuit, well, maybe they try to run in the States, you know, sound like defamatory lawsuits are exclusive to Canada protections here, but still, if they take from this that maybe the way to fight battles online is to go to litigious rule, then it's just a huge mess across the board. I think it is just a very bad precedent. Even if, you know, lawsuits doesn't end up this way of engaging with discourse, I think that's always been for some reason it's starting to get some more support. I just fully disagree with it. I think this is genuinely just a like big threat across the board to the entire space. Like if discourse becomes, you know, fearful of litigation flying back and forth, it's going to stifle our voices and stifle very like legitimate criticism down the line. It's just not something I want to see become commonplace. Now I did also have a conversation with IDubbbz about this as well. Like, you know, that this really is a horrible thing that he did to try and make his point. And he said that it was a legitimately awful thing that he did to make that point, and that it was a genuine, sincere apology that he was issuing, how regretful he was from it. So I did have a conversation with both sides to make sure I had a full clear picture of where everything was and what this was all about.
I don't know where Canada complains public, but he emphasizes throughout that he does think it's a serious accusation that needs to be investigated, and he doesn't think it's good. I know people were like, well, why don't you Destiny? Well, Destiny made it immediately. First, this comment on Destiny, like, passing, he put it on screen for 2 hours during his main broadcast. Destiny made it clear that he was not being serious, right? Pretty much immediately after, right? Like, nobody was like, yo, Destiny made this claim that Ethan was destroyed. Oh shit, and people knew that Destiny said it was just being a dickhead, and he was being fucking piece of shit, right? But he immediately afterwards made it clear that he didn't actually think that. He took that. And just because you're showing someone else, that doesn't mean you're showing essentially this accusation bare context and also I'm saying that it's true, right?
After hearing Ethan explain that, I actually made the noble sacrifice of going back and watching the entire IDubbbz stream segment with this kid when he was talking about it. Boy, yeah, I'm not here. It was brave, but I need 2 hours. That was accurate. It was hate, Steven. It was brutal. This whole segment where he was talking about that, I think was really rough. But I don't recall any point throughout him actually trying to argue that it's a legitimate thing or trying to convince his audience that it's real. So I know one of the big things is that it came from IDubbbz who has actually met Ethan and his family. So it's like this air of credibility around him saying something like this, but that's just not true. He's not even trying to say anything about it. He outright says that it's not. He doesn't agree with it. So he's not trying to present a real argument based on his experiences knowing Ethan and his family.
Also, I will say that I think Ethan Klein is terrified of this guy, though. Just kind of like legit. It's to me it's super funny that he has so much smoke for everyone he thinks he can bully, but the person he's fucking terrified he just keeps very overtly running from. It's like, yeah.
Now, while Ethan is 100% correct that IDubbbz says that this is a big allegation that Ethan should be addressing, he's not doing it personally, or at least I don't think he was. It's actually really kind of hard to tell. The whole segment was fucking awful, and the point he was trying to make was really done, shittily done. But what he's trying to say is that right there at the end, where Destiny says extremely outrageous, outlandish, disgusting thing about Ethan, and yet Ethan doesn't have smoke for him, but he does for the other people that he's gone after through lawsuits. I'm pretty sure that's what he's trying to make by putting it on screen. Like, look, Destiny says something absolutely despicable, yet you don't have that same energy for him as you do for others. Unless I blanked out like a recent moment of my memory from the segment, I don't recall him saying that this is like seriously he believes it and is presenting it as such.
Even is this, and it's a real allegation that really has a lot of argument. Now, this doesn't change the fact that what iDubbbz did here is completely awful. To try and make this point using that kind of comments with something as monstrously evil as that is just so fucking well. It is. So I don't believe it's how Ethan is necessarily explaining it to everyone. Where iDubbbz is really believing this, iDubbbz came over to my house, he met my family, now he's going after Chinese things. It's extremely funny. He did need to say everything, and now he's putting it out there like that. That is very silly, but he's not using it to try and make this claim that Ethan is those things. He's trying to use that to show that Destiny has said something so fucking terrible, yet you are not approaching him with the same energy you have everybody else. That is the point he was trying to make. I think that everything that I saw when watching it, granted, it was very hard to sit through. I'm pretty sure that's what he was trying to get at with that there. But I think that was a terrible way of going about it. Now, Ethan also justifies assuming Destiny as well. He's saying that Destiny cleared up that he wasn't being serious right away. I don't understand. I'm not like, it's not doing it. It's not doing it. It's a very disgusting statement. 100%. He's not wrong for feeling like this is a terrible thing that's being said about him. That's why you cross talking about people's children and like this. It's gross. Why is this defamation lawsuit reserved exclusively for iDubbbz with a nice big bow on it, but not also to Destiny? The genesis of that comment. Does that not just prove the point that I believe iDubbbz was trying to make in the first place, which is Destiny for some reason is atrocious? I've heard things about Ethan. For some reason, Ethan doesn't have the same anger towards Destiny as he does someone like iDubbbz. I guess iDubbbz could then say, well, iDubbbz actually did these children stuff sexual. I do believe it. It does add a fucked up ransomware on here where he did actually know Ethan and his family and use a comment like that trying to make a statement about like being soft on Destiny or whatever. I still just don't understand why Ethan is going to like, Destiny, clearly was being serious, goofing around, he was being ridiculous. If the reason truly is that Canada's laws around defamation are being relaxed and thus you have a case in Canada, not the US, to me that tells me that it's not really a defamation case worth pursuing. And if you're not going after Destiny for these comments, but you will for iDubbbz trying to make a different point about it. And I think the way iDubbbz went about doing this point is fucking atrocious. I don't know how he wasn't trying to argue legitimacy claim or anything like that. It was to show that you're very soft on Destiny but not others and use that outrageously gross comment. But if you're going after iDubbbz solely because you know you can get a defamation case when Canada's laws not being protected in the US, that's why you go after Destiny. That means that you're just trying to take advantage of those laws, the lax nature of those laws in Canada, take revenge on someone that has wronged you.
I really getting that. If people want to go after my children, then the rules of engagement have changed forever, and that's what I said then. And when when Liam broadcast this, I sent them cease and desist. I mean, there's certain things that you don't say, you don't do, and you cross. And they wanted it, they take it seriously. And
I totally understand that. If someone's going to cross that line going after like your children or your family, I didn't set up. Absolutely, you're saying that the rules of engagement changed forever. That's the only comment, and you're like totally just being like, clearly wasn't serious, clearly just being a dickhead. It's just not making sense. And if iDubbbz throughout that stream was going on about like actually serious and how she really believes it, trying to trying to like lead some kind of investigation into whether CTS, they're totally understand pursuing like litigation. That's not from what I saw in that stream. There was nothing sort, and he did outright say that he doesn't believe it. And he was only saying that she addressed as a way of pointing to you not wanting to engage with Destiny because you're afraid of Destiny. That's how it seemed from all of that garbage that sat through there. I'm pretty sure that's what he was getting at. Now, that's just which they did cease and desist. And it does seem like iDubbbz was like filled with joy on the scene. I've seen a couple of videos like really nonchalant. I almost seemed kind of happy about it. Maybe like a big boom exposure or something. I really don't know who celebrates something like that. It seemed like he wasn't taking it seriously. And he did eventually say he regrets doing the segment and like how bad it was, and that he did make an apology for doing anything he went too far. But it did take a lot. It's worth mentioning that his community, iDubbbz, like his stream chat and like people watching, were not supportive of his actions with showing that comment and trying to make that like using something so heinous. It's not like his audience was eating up and really celebrating what he did. His audience was turning against him for doing that. I don't remember all the facts. I need to positive stuff, scrub deleted. A lot of what I find was people in his audience really didn't agree with him doing this.
I don't see how you can say that I'm not justified. Somebody who's your former friend figure out to make is podcasting. This is silly. It's silly. He's addressed this little minor thing. He molested his own children. He's a pedophile. Is that fine? I don't know. Is that a joke? Is that free speech? I don't think so. There's another thing here. Like, this is a grave threat against free speech. No, it's not. Defamation laws exist in every major Western country because you can't just say people molested children. That's not free speech. That's not free speech.
And the thing iDubbbz did, that would be the comments that was left by someone else. So that is the big problem that was said in the first place. They wouldn't that energy be channeled the person who actually said it. He's trying to portray as though he is championing it, that he is trying to use this knowingly fraudulent information to push into that Ethan is a monster that does the unthinkable to his children. But when watching it again, that's just not what he was saying. He did outright say he doesn't believe it in the first place. And he was like, how is that a joke? Well, you just said that the person who commented Destiny was just joking, basically. He was being a piece of shit. He wasn't serious. That was a goof. That doesn't make sense. And so it was a joke when he wrote the comments, but it's not a joke when iDubbbz is trying to use it to shilly make a point. It wasn't even a joke about the comment itself. It's more so that he worked inside Destiny for making it in the first place.
You can't accuse someone of committing a heinous crime. That's not fake. That's not free speech. That's not protected speech. It's literally not protected speech. It's actually explicitly carved out in the law as, you know, this is the legal right. Some of the things, right?
Ethan, all people should be very familiar with how defamatory lawsuits can be exploited by those with a lot of money. He was the guy that always fought on the right side of these kind of battles. And now in this case, I really think he's lost his way in that regard. What he is describing here is not even what iDubbbz did. He's trying to make these comments. That's not free speech. Destiny made the comment, man, literally, and yet you're not going after him or excuse him. You wrote off as a dickhead. And you're going after iDubbbz, who is very surely using it to make a very different point and outright say he doesn't believe it, by the way. So it really feels less about the actual defaming more about just being able to continue to like really drive the nail in iDubbbz, which is extremely unnecessary. His own community didn't agree with him. He lost members of his community because he was so in the wrong for it. Everyone was on your side and all this was unfolding. So really, what he was trying to accomplish, he came out that much worse, and he outright apologized for it, admitted how wrong he was for it, and everything like that, which was just a significantly bigger L than like a legal one in the eyes of the internet. Being like that wrong and that much on like the wrong side of like the drama. By every possible interpretation, you won here. You proved the claims were fraudulent, they were false, they're not real, and people were on your side in this whole situation here and against how iDubbbz had gone out trying to make this point. All you had to do was just leave it at that. By taking this lawsuit, you've now made a new issue out of it that is a concern and can affect other people entirely unrelated to it. And I'm also very surprised why Ethan can't see that after all of the lawsuits he's been through. Something like this should be very apparent how it can be used exploitatively against others, even outside of a case of like this extreme degree. Like Ethan, up to years ago, I could absolutely see that. But right now, I just think after everything that's been completely clouded by it and can't see that anymore. Now it's into like the concern about how this can affect, you know, free speech or discourse online because Ethan is talking about like how he doesn't understand how it could because this is such an extreme thing that was said that's so gross. This is a very gross thing that was said. And if iDubbbz was pressing as a very legitimate thing, trying to make it seem like it's true to everyone, then I think then it would allow us to go this time. That is something like the shark community was doing, like some really unhinged behavior. So that wouldn't exist. That's not what happened here. And the reason why this is concerning is because let's say Ethan does win this lawsuit here, that then opens the door for other people coming with less extreme shit. Like this case, it is very over the top and gross. But defamatory statements aren't just this extreme. Defamatory statements are very wide reaching, and this being something you put to like, okay, so it worked for Ethan, it probably worked for me. This guy who said this thing that actually damaged my brand. In this case, I think in the first place, I don't know something that's required by Canadian law. I have no fucking clue. I don't understand free speech protection, that's requirement or whatever. But I think it would be a Herculean task to prove that H3 is sort of like a reputational hit or a loss of revenue or a brand tanking because of iDubbbz stream here. Because what has often been flexed by a lot of people is how H3 has thousands and thousands of live viewers all the time, and iDubbbz would have like 100. So H3 being like 100 exercise iDubbbz would be very hard for anyone to say iDubbbz did really damage the H3 brand. And here's the proof. We lost so many members on YouTube. That's clearly not going to happen. But someone else absolutely could. Something that a lot of people talk about online, like commentary YouTubers supposed to stand out on this. So I couldn't stand to utilize the same. But they actually proved damage because they talked about, you know, a customer's terrible experience with us, and that was defamatory. And look at how much business it cost us and ruined our reputation. And you could possibly point to Ethan's lawsuit here should we win as it's like, well, he got a defamatory ruling in his favor after suing iDubbbz for something else. So we are going to be suing this YouTuber for what this customer said they talked about in content that ruined our brand or for business. A lot of times the sources come from others, the rules or something else. So we can sue for a reason like this, and it does open up to exploitation from some bad actors. So yeah, well, it's not extreme in what is happening here between iDubbbz and H3. I think it's very easy to look at it and say, okay, he can sue for what someone else said and was on his stream. Why can't I sue for what someone else said that was in their content that I believe in me? And I just think that it does open the door to some problems. And I've seen the responses kind of split. And like in content, you gotta be unanimously, you know, discouraged for pretty obvious reasons. It's historically always been stood on, but because it's now some people like iDubbbz, okay, with me laughing about it. I just don't really get it. I don't know how the West hasn't learned that when something gets used against somebody you don't like, it doesn't mean only everyone uses it. Like once that can learn something from the Wild West, and it can be a problem for everybody. Making exceptions like that, ooh, not good. Really against YouTubers filing, you know, litigation against other content creators. But since iDubbbz, I'll be okay with it. I think it's some pretty silly shit. I think the internet is first go around this topic, but they think we're correct with the take on this topic. That being extremely litigious, going after other content creators and such with defamatory lawsuits and such is just not very good. It's the same tactics that have been used from some extremely shady companies in the past against people online, and it's just a tactic that used to unanimously leave a sour taste in the mouth of just one people online. But now in this case, because it's something like they're willing to be all right with turning the other cheek to it. I don't think that's right. If iDubbbz truly was spreading maliciously fraudulent information of this disgusting stuff that was made in this comment and saying like this is real, this is true, this is awful, this is what's happening, nobody's done that, then I would really understand it. That is very different. There's no that is psychopathy shit. Why is he not saying that's not what's happening? I don't understand the commentary channels treat this like some hollering goofy thing, you know, the celebrated point left. I think it's pretty easy how this could potentially use as ammunition in some less than savory lawsuits going forward, specifically in Canada. It would obviously be like for Canadian YouTubers. Even still, there's no, there's just, it's not just have more ammunition for some bad actors to be able to exploit legally. I just don't understand why this is happening. I've started like for about the last 15 years of everyone knowing that this kind of thing isn't really good. Yeah, we got this from it now. But I do cover these like YouTuber streamer lawsuits that occasionally pop up. It wasn't that aware of at least. And this one was very surprising to see. I did have a conversation with both iDubbbz and Ethan. In the conversation with Ethan, he wanted to prepare a statement because I wasn't trying to let him know that exactly where I talked to him in a conversation would be how I wanted to talk about it publicly. Since I made clear on other business, we can text messages. He wanted to prepare something. I would chair. I've past, like sharing statements from the people that cover stories, so I'll do the same here as well. He said, CBS calls a year, rules and engagement completely changed. Our community fabricated a lie that children were crawling around dog shit, eating my phone at 8 a.m. through my home and my children against their will. Presentation that overall was turned unfounded. This, even though color tax children were family, with a friend of his for many years, he lived in his house, as children, when he slammed us on screen for hours, saying he had children take a long way when Destiny said. Destiny said in Discord chat and passing on screen for a few seconds, he never met, spoke with Destiny, and Destiny never knew his house as children, has zero credibility issue. Made clear that in passing chat, Destiny was never meant to be taken seriously. Dealing with him does know his family, his business on his children, and the fact that excluded that closeness affords the hands of real accusation, worse than action, because argues, he has supported the cult to CBS and his content that he openly associates with time and celebrates the start community from which the original CBS call came from. He believes it was Ian's intention to cause harm to his family, as he knew CBS already visited the home and so decided to rebroadcast the accusations for around on stream. He's split to everything he can, and anyone who attempts to understand family accountable in whatever way they can. Because of the context, he believes that he has a much more complicated case in IDubbbz than Destiny, and that's why he's only suing Destiny. IDubbbz also lives in the USA where defamation laws are much harder to win versus in Canada where IDubbbz lives. These are all the reasons that he's suing IDubbbz and not Destiny. He's chosen the legal and most proper way afforded him that live in countries that value free speech. Lawsuit defamation. Defamation is not the type of speech. He does not have an illegal way to say that he's a pedophile molesting children. accountability in this case has to be more than just internet mudslinging and jousting. He's crossed the line and he's passed on carrying what Charlie or anyone else thinks, and he will protect family costs. Now, it wasn't clear, we didn't exactly see eye on this case here in regards to this whole lawsuit situation. I believe, as is even stated in his statements, that he's targeting solely because the free speech laws in Canada are more lax than it is for rival versus the US or Destiny. He's saying that it would be hard to win that case against Destiny. So to me, that says that if the way you win is through more lax free speech laws, then it's not really a real defamation case we're suing. It's you taking advantage of that lax nature of those laws to further punish the guy who you have a lot of fire towards for the previous instances of aligning with the shark community and stuff like that, as opposed to actually fighting for, and this was defamatory, and that feels very familiar for a tactic that is common with big companies to financially drain someone that they have a lot of issues with for a variety of reasons, a whole host of reasons. And in pursuing this route, it does open a whole host of problems for a lot of other people and can have far-reaching consequences to set some kind of precedent or set an example for others to try and follow suit. It is something that I've always advocated against, and there's nothing in all of the streams and evidence I've seen that indicates that IDOT is trying to push this as a true thing, using his previous relationship with Ethan as a place of credibility to try and preach to his audience that this comment is accurate. This is a legitimate claim that actually needs to be investigated. There's nothing I ever saw that gave me that indication. It was only ever estimated atrocious comments that Ethan is not being very upset about and having very different energy towards him than the others. And it was very, very, very poorly made point using a very gross example for it, which is something IDOT openly admits. So anyway, yeah, I've had this for a long time now. That feeling is a pretty poisonous topic where the only move is not to play. In regards to covering the H3 versus IDOT lawsuit, sometimes you can handle so to see it still hot. And boy, how easy is it. Like I've always said, I treat the channel like that. I just blabber about things that I feel like talking on. Just sit in my chair, keep my little 5 foot 6 feet lanes around and just give my thoughts from a little steel trap up here on. And one topic I've always covered is creator lawsuit. So when I heard about the H3 versus IDOT defamation case, I wanted to take a peek into it. Same my teeth and see what's going on because that is a pretty wild thing. And learn about it I did like a little scholar. It was a new lawsuit. It was only public knowledge for 24 hours, so I did as much research on it as I could and watched the IDOT stream that started it. That is like the main catalyst of it. I watched the H3 stream where he explains his lawsuit, and I talked to both parties. IDOT said he tried to declare so it's a complete picture of everything going on here, and I just gave my view on it from the old Floridian homunculus eyes. And I think I've always made it abundantly clear. You're always welcome to disagree. I've always had that door wide open because I actually value differences of opinion. I have I actively shut down the idea that you have to agree with everything I say or else I hate you. You're attacking all my content from the womb to the tomb. I have always welcomed discussion and people having different opinions because I've always said I think you surround yourself with fans and you only lock yourself into one way of viewing things. You do yourself a disservice. I think it's a bad thing just because I love them. There's a mention that is because I made the mistake. I committed the old sin of taking the when the discussion was around this video on like Reddit and Twitter, which is something I haven't done in quite a few moons now. I was expecting like actual discussion because I knew this topic. I want to see okay, well, there's things that I didn't know about, but I learned about here and I deep run. And those are very decent some information that I get my hands on more about. The way how there's a lot of hoopla that I couldn't have even imagined would be like a controversial thing. And there are people that were probably saying they didn't watch the video, thinking angry things they assumed I might have said it, or attacking for things that I never said on the video because they didn't watch it, or they're replying to someone who's actually making sure that they're pulling out their ass 100%. So it just feels like you're just engaged in the topic in that case. Like it's so odd. Like what I didn't expect was just me mentioning I'm not on my it was kind of like highly debated topic.
The guy's entire career is front running whatever's going viral, is saying that he doesn't know what's going on the internet. All right, obviously we gotta take his word for it. Right? Let's see what videos he's making. Lego. Watch Mojo got even more pathetic. Degenerate Corinne. Lego vigilante. Lego scandal keeps getting messed up in response to the Lego scandal. Lego scandal is getting extremely dangerous and scary. Korean officer embarrasses himself. Lego scandal keeps getting crazier.
Just some of the defamation lawsuit, I also mentioned that Ethan has other active lawsuits against other creators. I called them Nintendo YouTubers because he's extremely litigious. I didn't dive into those lawsuits because I didn't know about them. And that claim is apparently extremely hard to believe because everyone assumes that I'm totally online. But I used to 3 years ago. When I said that's not the case, there are quite a few people that just don't believe me. Unfathomable moments, so it must be lying. So here's a streamer debunking by going through my channel and noticing I've posted a lot of videos on Lego, for example, because of the Lego scandal. This is a very interesting example to use off the point he's making about me front running every viral story. Because with the reckless spin versus pushing Lego scandal, I actually was getting called out for avoiding that and ignoring it because I was late to covering it. Reckless spin dropped part 1 on May 21st, and I heard about it from Screenshot and a friend sent it to me as well. And I made my video covering it on May 26th, 5 days later. But in that interim, people were saying I was avoiding the topic. It's fascinating how if I something quickly or systematically the Lego scandal, that's a problem. I'm just running shit to capitalize off the virality of it. But if I am late to covering something, that means that I was avoiding it. I must have known that the whole time and had ulterior motives to avoid the topic. Out of cowardice, I only talk about it when pressed. Feels like a lose-lose. If I'm too quick to something or too interested in something, so I think I'm talking about, then I'm just there to front run and capitalize off it being popular. If I'm too slow to it, well, it means I was actually waiting the whole time and I do cover it. Well, it's only because people pressure. So where's the goldilocks zone? I can't be too quick to something or too interested in it. That's not fun. But I also can't be too slow to it or not cover it at all because then it must mean I do about the whole time. I'm there on mission. I guess I see everything and that's why I'm slow to it or don't talk about it. And there was an ulterior motive and deeper reason that's fair. So where's the goldilocks zone? I personally don't see why it's so hard to believe that, considering in a lot of the stories I cover, they have already been covered by others like Lawrence, for example. So like they feel like every time for last year basically. And the way I find out about a lot of things I cover is through, except for instance, the I do stream, which is daily. I'm similar to I do stream chat with things on radar. And that's what people are probably sending more popular things because that's what they've seen. So that's usually what I said. All the time. I on the streams you're scrolling around talking about only like popular stuff. He has multiple things that work like that video about not people think about this. It's not sand, it's sand-related crimes like the sand mafia. And also you can call it about ranking every Panda Express and you use that to like belittle me about how good it is. And he was insinuating that it's not like a viral story. It's not like Panda Express is a huge topic. Yes, right there. My channel is the things that I'm interested in at the time. And there are a lot of stories that I do find interesting and do about the Lego scandal. I really do miss a lot more these days than I did when I was very online all the time like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know how else to prove it to you. I mean, I guess like you can look at my Twitter page and see that I have 2 tweets in like the last 2 years, or on Instagram I make a post every month and a half and a lot of them just me hanging out with my farm animals. Like you can check my streaming history and see I'm not active streaming. I'm not streaming the same frequency I used to. I'm not putting in really long hours. I did Destiny 2. Salvation Edge. Why is it fucking exciting? But I don't really know how else to say it. I just don't see everything that happens online. I can't believe that's something that's apparently like a issue or it's so unbelievable. It's embarrassing to me that people can't imagine I'm not online all the time.
All the lazy ass fucking thumbnails. Also, he has the Asmongolia outfit where he only wears a dirty white t-shirt in every fucking thumbnail. Not every single video is like, guys, he's got to stay offline to make his Panda Express tier list.
Way too far. How fucking dare you? I've been wearing white t-shirts, not dirty white t-shirts by the way. Pristine gym mint white t-shirts. It has golden diapers. So that's like me saying that you have a moist pretty hair and beard combo. But anyway, let's talk about the other lawsuits here because that was a big point that people were very upset with that. I didn't extensively cover those as well. I've been talking about defamation lawsuits. And since I didn't do so, people didn't believe that it was because I didn't know that. They are accusing me of knowingly avoiding it or even silently championing for those lawsuits, which I find befuddling because my entire time on YouTube, 18, 19 years on YouTube, I made it beyond crystal clear how much I dislike this litigious approach to online discourse. And really just this excessive use of the legal system for strong arming or silencing. Like, I've made I don't know how many videos covering cases outside of like the internet, but like, you know, sometimes the legal political back and forth, like just in general, like the legal lawsuits that fly around from like corporations and typical people too. Like I don't know anyone would think for a second that I would be avoiding talking about that or agreeing with it. Why would I? Never have in the past, so why would I start now? You just don't like me, which is totally fine. I get it. Everyone likes the old 4 teach, like you're just doing it in bad faith and making that assumption, and it's incorrect because the truth is, and it's true, I'm not after learning more about those other lawsuits that he's engaged in, like fair use lawsuits and such. That's why I don't agree with those. Obviously, I don't know all the debris around every single lawsuit. I've only just begun learning about all these, but everything I've seen from the lawsuits that he has actively going on, there's nothing in there that makes me think that this is like the right way of doing things, or that this is different from other times that master creators have sued each other over disputes. Now, clearly, I don't know all the nuances and intricacies of fair use law. Ethan would certainly know that I and many others would, so he has some strong cases here, and in one of the instances with one of these streamers, it did seem like they were just uninterrupted playing the video without even an attempt to transform it. So that could be like an easy fair use win for Ethan. I just don't think that's a win overall. Like, there's a lot of that kind of behavior is in front of. And I really think the price was different. It wasn't streamers that a lot of people like. There was possibly very different lawsuits. Right now, a lot of people celebrating because they take people that Ethan is too. So they go yeet off for it. But these individuals, like streamers, particularly fair use, they are a fraction of the size of Ethan. So to me, a hard case that he was genuinely like losing eyeballs because of them streaming on their Twitch channel. And yeah, it's like a big asshole thing for them to do, but really, it's not really you. It's just you don't like them, and they don't like you. So this is a way of being able to get a big jab in there. And since a lot of the internet has like them, it's around behind you as well, as opposed to start asking a question, why even bother? You already won against that kind of behavior. The internet, I can tell, I guess it's kind of post-mortem analysis. I'm super late to it. But I can tell. No one's really on the side of the streamers that are just blatantly streaming it without any kind of transformation or anything like that. So you already won. What's the point of continuing this further? Thank much to the lawyer, just so you can also financially hurt them to further, it seems like it's less about fighting a just cause for fair use and more about like here's some more ammunition. The big point that I spent the most time looking into is the Diddos case because it's the most recent and it is being touted as a tentative loss for Ethan, which I don't know what tentative loss really means because it's not official loss, it's still an ongoing lawsuit here. But the judge had a very seemingly stern view on it. Ethan cited Ethan Klein's previous fair use victory against him in his suit against Stephen Klein a while back had a landmark achievement in the fight for fair use against the old guy Matt Boss, and that ruling was cited here against him in this fair use lawsuit. So to me, that illustrates that these lawsuits are coming from a genuine place of trying to enforce real fair use and are potentially coming from a place of revenge. Now, I don't know the intricacies of everyone being sued in relationship to Ethan and Stark Community. I don't know, but I'm against these lawsuits. I just don't agree with going to this community. There are very few lawsuits in this space that I think make sense. And when it does Ethan going after the Stark Community that allegedly did send a fraudulent CVS check to his house and human skulls. Apparently, how we mentioned that for some reason. I got like a dog bringing up, but everything I've seen that they haven't elucidated that or anything. So like that's a pretty fucking big deal. Every time they make like that. So the Stark Community is also that makes sense to go back because that is extremely And that is something that should be pursued legally. It's not ever happening again. Yeah, I was very surprised how many people were so quick to jump to the conclusion that I was quoting this and lying about not knowing about it and secretly championing for those lawsuits and that kind of thing. So much good faith is completely fleshed out. Anyone who wants to be a good faith recognized by he is and doesn't know about those lawsuits, which is why he hasn't included that. I feel like that would be a normal thing to do, a courtesy to extend, considering I've always vocally advocated against this kind of extreme religious path in online discourse and online communities. So why now is that no longer afforded the courtesy of? He definitely felt like I was supposed to believe that anymore. But that's good faith is kind of used weakness. Online people are far more interested in scalp, far more interested in spectacle and shit slinging and stuff. So it's time to push things a little ahead and kind of get attacked by everything because nobody wants it anymore. So like I said, I feel like I did a very good faith look at everything and I spent 3 hours going through like the essentials of what was going on, learning about it from the ground up. And once I did that, then I went into watching IDubbbz stream the lawsuits on my watch stream and I talked to that and continued to look deeper into it across the span of most of that day. And I approached it, I believe, in very good faith across the board. And doing so, you always earn that prestigious title of Finster. If you're not extreme on either side of the drama, you are Finster, which I think it's a term that's really lost a luster because in the video, I have a pretty strong stance. I don't agree with Ethan's defamation lawsuit. And I spent 36 minutes yapping about all my reasons why. And boy, I repeated myself multiple times. I watched it back and I literally made the same point like 3 times. So I knew it was only a handful of things. So I already said it. So I really did make it very clear what my stance is. It's not something that it's too big thumbs up for me. But because I also mentioned that IDubbbz stream was a very poorly handled one that I think used a disgusting comment to try and illustrate this point, and that was a very painful stream. Because I mentioned that people are using both sides. He was shitting on IDubbbz for most of the video actually, which I don't know how you walk away with that. IDubbbz himself will also tell you that was a bad stream, and he was regretful of it. He has publicly come out apologized when he said that was too far. But me, given the fact that he was repurchased it, apparently, you know, now I'm going to be getting into the next stuff I talk about because again, a lot of the drunkenness isn't even about my take on it. It's about stuff I take on it without even giving why I think that. So I want really consider confusion why I disagree with this defamation lawsuit. So that's what started this defamation lawsuit.
Okay, so I do want to say I don't agree with what's being said in this comment here, but I'm putting it on screen because I think it should be addressed because it's a big old accusation. It's very fucked up.
The comment he's showing was not made by him. He then goes on to explain what he's actually trying to accomplish by having that comment on his stream for so long as a watermark.
Also, I will say that I think Ethan Klein is terrified of this guy, though. It's just kind of like legit. It's to me, it's super funny that he has so much smoke for everyone that he thinks he can bully, but the person that he's fucking terrified, he just keeps very overtly running from. It's like,
yeah, I think he made this way pretty dog shit and used a very good amount of force, which I said yesterday, and I still stand by that. And I said to him, the point that he's making by showing this comment on the stream is look at what Destiny can say and get away with without Ethan's wrath. He has smoke for so many people. Destiny said something unthinkably heinous, and Ethan is going after him, he's going after other people. He must be afraid. That is his point with showing. Ethan has gone on to say that this is significantly more malicious from IDubbbz than Destiny, because Destiny said in passing, and you know, he's being a dickhead and this about it. But IDubbbz did say it, and he even openly said without any desperate, without any sarcasm, that he doesn't agree with it, he doesn't believe he's not presenting it as true. He didn't say malicious because IDubbbz didn't need his family, need his kids, and now he has that on the stream. That is still very well, which is why I'm saying it wasn't a good stream for IDubbbz. It's not even this. But no one on that stream, I asked, did IDubbbz ever try and make the argument that Destiny's comment reflects the truth, or is really what he openly says he doesn't agree with? He's using it to make a point. He doesn't do a great job expressing that point super clearly, but he does express clearly, and there's no defense about it that he doesn't agree with the comment. So it just doesn't make sense to me why Ethan is super willing to say I didn't mean anything from Destiny. IDubbbz on the stream means malicious intent, and that's explaining our credibility. I disagree because he's never credibility. But sarcastically saying that is a serious allegation that you really that he's making a point that why are you ignoring something this gross from Destiny, but going so hard on others from us? And Ethan saying that he does outright say that he had a much better chance of winning against IDubbbz in Canada because of their laws there being very different than the laws here in the US. So he believed he actually winning Destiny in the US felt he could against IDubbbz in Canada. So to me, that feels like trying to capitalize off lax free speech laws in Canada to get revenge and using this as a convenient excuse, exactly and punishing him further for associating with snarkers, as opposed to actually pursuing a real defamation case. Because if defamation case are only pursuing Canada and not here in the States, then he doesn't feel like defamation case. People are upset that I just truly believe that free speech laws around speech in general should be very protected. I feel like he was a very strong counter. I think that should be stated there. To have laws that are strong to protect real free speech. And I said if IDubbbz was going around saying that Destiny comment was accurate, it was true, promoting it as a legitimate claim that he believed in and used his friendship with Ethan as this credibility to try and convince the argument that this is a claim that has really got some merit to its own. Then I would agree that wouldn't be free speech. And that wouldn't be protected in the US either, by the way. So in that case, I would get that. He's going around knowing this fraudulent, disgusting allegation and promoting it as though it were true. Then yeah, that would be a defamation case that I would understand. But that's just not the truth of what happened in that stream. I am still just not a fan of extremely litigious avenues for handling the online space. I don't think there's ever any winners at all except for, of course, the fucking lawyers that are selling. And yes, I do believe this is a bad example. I don't think they can worms in the online space. That's contrary to what in general. People are upset about cycling, which is about here in the entire the reason why I'm so upset is because if this doesn't come close to people learning that going through litigation to handle issues at the proper channel, people will be less willing to cover controversial stories. Like for example, when you make a video calling out a potential scam, you are taking a very real risk. And if this was a company that may not see that immediately goes to track down, you're showing this customer's perspective, and it's hurting our brand. It's defamatory. You're coming after you. It would be an issue that would be wide reach, and other YouTubers that are beef with each other maybe do the same thing. You said this about me, or you posted a screenshot of a tweet that was slanders about me coming after you. And then it just becomes a big commentary example. That's one of the you remember the whole mystery about Pac-Man? Well, it was perhaps the biggest payday for tons of commentary channels that latched on that was tons and tons of videos being turned out daily covering that situation. And fast forward a length of time, turns out a lot of the allegations were either misleading or just outright false and incorrect. So Twitch then turned around and issued a lawsuit with every commentary channel that was covering Saga and citing with Dogpack promoting Dogpack allegations as true, going forward as legitimate real. So I don't think that would be a good thing, but he realistically probably does have a pretty strong case to build for a defamation lawsuit against a lot of channels that were actively preaching Dogpack's allegations as gospel. But something else on fraud scammer based on the Dogpack allegations, which turned out to be incorrect. They were still blaming that as the truth. So Mr. Beast issued defamation lawsuits to all those commentary channels and should this victory here and have a favorable ruling in the books for this defamation case. Well, then Mr. Beast point to look at that. He won here already. We can use that. I'm not saying that would happen, but maybe again, just not have ammunition as possible. Now, at the end of the day, that's just one pro-Magnus perspective. It is completely fine to disagree with. Even healthy, not healthy, is this trend where people don't watch the video and only engage through select Twitter clips in order to get outraged and inform their whole opinion around the video they didn't watch from. Now, I just dived into some unhinged takes, but this one actually killed me. And for some reason, I saw this quite a bit. He spoke with Ethan Klein, but not IDubbbz. Pathetic. Max Lane is pathetic. If only they watched the video, because I didn't just speak to Ethan Klein. He also spoke to IDubbbz. It's right there in the very beginning of the video. It's early in the video. Now, I did also have a brief conversation with IDubbbz about this as well. Like, in the video, I did say I talked with both of them about it, and people still saying only one side of the story. What you do? That's what you do. So everything arguments around the stream that didn't actually happen because you didn't watch the video. You just already had a preconceived idea. You wanted to short stage attacks. Everything like that's fine. You're not like, you know, not everyone likes the fun size floor area. That's completely fine. Absolutely. But you at least be right about something you're not liking for. Just watch the video first. I just realized I've been yapping for almost 30 minutes, and I already know without even a sibling slamming an iota about that, almost nobody is watching to this point. They've already formed their opinion even before clicking the video or in the first couple of minutes to start fighting on different points. There's no reason to keep looking at it. It does feel useless to even engage with a lot of online discourse. It does just feel useless. Because people don't even care about the take per se. It's just they already have an video, and no matter what, it's not changing. Sometimes they don't even watch the video to try and show you for something they think much of the video, or they saw the tweet that references the video. That's good enough for them to show you for that, even if it's entirely wrong. So it is not very good. Anyway, this is what you have.
Well, internet is. Well, sucks. Boom, boom.
Here is a setting that you don't see on my typical board, though. There's all sorts of things that look a little different. There you go. Exactly. We don't look at many boards on this channel. Matt, do I have one for you here today? This is the colorful iGame X87E Vulcan OC14. Yes, that is the whole name. Let's get the board out here. It is not. This board isn't your typical board, though. What it is it's a very overclocking focused board where it's giving up some of the luxuries that you have with other boards having all of the features and bringing you some that are specifically overclocking focused. Things on the smart. This only has 2 DIMM slots. That is for a reason. When you have more slots in the way and you have more memory sticks plugged in, you aren't going to push things as hard as when you have 2 or even just 1 stick memory in there. This board has a little bit of claim to fame where there was an overclock that set the world record for the frequency of an 800X 3D and got up to 7.335 GHz. It was beating 2 months later by someone who beat it by 5 MHz, but still, it shows that there's some bones here for something that push record. Before I dive further into the board, though, let's take a look at what else is included in the box. Opening the accessories box, we've got some literature. Oh, this is kind of nice. They include a bunch of replacement thermal pads for your M.2 slots. Over time, as you're pulling right out, putting them in, these M.2 thermal pads can get pretty gummed up and sometimes ripped up if they're sticking to the drive. Underneath that, you have the motor manual itself, and as opposed to most of the things you see, this is English first. Because colorful is a menu that mainly focused on the Asian market, and they started coming into Europe and might be coming into North America soon, just in case you were worried. You get halfway through, and it does have the English version. So underneath here, we have all sorts of other goodies. One of the things that you see in many products that come from Asia are the white gloves.
Yeah, it's just a Mickey Mouse.
We've got an antenna here for the onboard Wi-Fi 7. The included cable like this is a reasonable length, 38 inches, so just over 3 feet of cable. What is in here? Oh, you get a toolkit. This is also a precision screwdriver kit that comes in the box there. One here satisfying. Going rapid fire, a few other things we got here. You've got some zip ties. We've got 3 4-side cables. We have a GPU support bracket. We get some extra M.2 standoffs and their accompanying screws. A couple of cables for looks like RGB, and some handy pin blocks for headers like your front panel and your USB, and then a 32 gig flash drive. Onto the board itself. A few of the things are recognizable and normal. We've got our dual 8-pin connectors here for the CPU. We have a 24-pin power here for your motherboard.
PCI Express power. Why would you need that on board? Well, as it turns out, they've implemented power delivery for your 5-pound USB. So you've got that connector for the pound USB here. You can actually charge up to 60 watts through that as long as you have this PCI Express connector also. We've got a good amount of fan headers on here. So you can see we have 2 headers for AI or pumps up there, 2 headers for the CPU fans, and 2 more down here for system fans. We've got 1 more high on the side of the board right here. You may have also noticed that along the bottom of the board here, there's all sorts of things that look a little different. We have a number of switches and a few buttons down here. The 2 switches on the bottom corner are just for controls. That's pretty self-explanatory. These 2 switches in the middle are not something you'll see on your everyday board. One's labeled L2 mode and the other is labeled slow mode. As you may have guessed, they're used for for extreme overclocking. When you have these enabled, they will do things like unlock higher voltages that you wouldn't normally be allowed to push the CPU and play with some of the clock timings just to try and get the system to boot a little bit more stable. The last switch that we have here is actually a BIOS switch. This board has two different BIOS chips on it, just in case you're pushing things a little hard or you're running some sort of mishap, you do have a fallback chip that you can go and instead. One other kind of feature with the board in BIOS is it has a set of pins right on the end here where you can hook up a chip directly to the pins which go to the BIOS chip itself. This means you can flash a chip even if the board is completely unresponsive. In the top right hand corner, there is a push LED as well as just individual LEDs for sync feedback, as well as there are some control points in the top corner here. You can use those for are getting hardware voltages of what is actually going to your CPU socket rather than relying on software to give you that feedback. Moving down from there, there's a few board control buttons. So you've got a power button, a reset button, and a retry button. These are nice to have, so you don't have to be relying on any sort of panel. You've got a test bench, you can put an external button. The retry button in particular is if you're not making it past memory training and you just want to try and get to certain memory training without going away on your BIOS settings, that's what you want there. Below those three buttons, there's a small LCD here where you can put some system stats or whatever your configuration is. It is a full color display, so there's lots of flexibility. Trying out some of these features on the edge. We've got some ARGB headers, some USB 2, and a USB 3 hiding on the bottom, as well as SATA ports and some more RGB on top. On the back panel, we have a turbo button. The turbo button will enable a preset PDO profile that sets your frequency to +150 and disables ADX512, trying to give you a little more stability. We've got a BIOS update button for flashing your BIOS from a USB key directly and a clear CMOS button, something that is super important to have when you're doing recording. There's a couple USB 2 ports right here, as well as a PS2 port. Now, you might wonder, why would you want a PS2 port to access? There is actually an advantage to using a PS2 keyboard when you are working with a system that might not be the most stable. A PS2 port has direct interrupt to your CPU, where USB has to share its communication with a bunch of other things. We've got 4 USB 5 gig ports, as well as 4 USB 10 gig ports, and 2 USB 40 gig ports, which is super nice to see. Finally, we've got our networking with a 5 gigabit RJ45 here and our Wi-Fi 7 hookups there. Sound is a digital SPDIF out, as well as a 3.5 mil line out and a 3.5 mil mic in. Let's put a little bit of this armor off and see what's hiding underneath in terms of extension. You can see we've got our typical graphics board here, and a little bit of much else there, but there is a cover that is hiding another full-size PCI Express slot. The bottom slot here, while it is still an X16 slot, it is only PCI Express 4, and so go for your chipset. Pulling these guys off here, you can see we have all sorts of M.2 extension. This top slot here is PCI Express 5 and goes directly to your CPU. You have 2 more PCI Express 5 slots here that also run to your CPU, but what's worth noting is if you are using these slots, you are going to be bifurcating your X16 slot here down to X8 and then giving X4 to each of the slots. So you probably won't have a problem with most graphics cards, but it's something to definitely be aware of. The last two here at the bottom are going for your chipset, so you're sharing bandwidth with things like USB ports and network cards, and they are PCI Express 4x4. Everyone has to do some hardware to get this thing up and running. Get those hot G's. It's nice to see that they have a tool design for your M.2 with the nice little slider holding place and then a quick release for this topic here. The thing that's insane is when you have a tool design for your M.2 slot, you just on top here. I've seen that before. It just kind of like we don't have anything too special going in here for testing. Just a 7600X and a drive that got Windows on it and a couple of sticks of RAM. These are 2 16 gig sticks. Really just so that people can run the BIOS a little bit, click there and some software. Graphics again, nothing special, just something to get the available. This is the GT10 that I keep on my test bench. It's super handy because I don't need to put power to it. So you can while putting everything together, I forgot to mention that there's a handy lock unlock button here for your PCI Express slot. This is instead of having that pesky little lever that kind of locks into place, it's impossible to get to when you have all the graphics right now. Let's fire things up. Right away is you can see animation playing on the screen over here, and this is where I love to have those easy access buttons for power. In the top corner, you can see our post LED is doing things and it's not figuring out how to start. If it stops on a single number, that's when you want to actually start. You have to see what that means. So I'm going to take a quick look through the BIOS because it's not random that I've really worked much for. You see a lot of ASUS, CCP, inside. Each one of them have a little bit of their own spin on how percent settings they're getting to. We're going to take a poke into the event settings here and see what they present. Here is a setting that you don't see on a typical board though. They give you an option for B clock mode where you can have asynchronous or asynchronous. This board has its own clock generator where you can decouple your base clock from your CPU to the rest of the system here. Your base clock is essentially what sets the timing for everything, and your CPU will use a multiplier to get the speed that you want to bring out. Base clock usually runs at 100 Hz, so if you have a 5.2 GHz CPU, it'll run a multiplier up to 52, and then you drop back down when it's not working so hard to like 40 GHz. When you are overclocking with base clock, it's really, really easy to get system instability. If you have all the other things that aren't made to run faster, things get a little weird. You can actually end up with like data corruption on your drive because read and write splits in particular didn't quite have the way it's supposed to with base clocking push higher. We've talked about those buttons before. We talked about buttons being there, but 2 of the buttons here are for base clock plus and base clock minus. That gives you the ability to, with button pushes, in real time change that base clock by either 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, or 1 megahertz at a time. I will bring up CPU and it doesn't show you exactly what that looks like. Now, something that isn't colorful fault but drives me crazy. You can see in front of here, I've got precision boost override profile, which is great. You've got a bunch of options here, and you can choose a few different ways to overclock your CPU. Now, if I go over to advanced, I've also got AMD overclocking, which you can go to accept, and you can set up overclocking things in here. If I go back over to advanced CPU configuration, you'll see I also have more AMD overclocking with a lot of the same looking settings. Depending on where you set settings, you may end up overwriting settings in other areas, or those settings just plain not working because other areas set on. It's really frustrating. It's something that I really wish to get cleared up with AMD and board manufacturers. One other thing I found looking around the BIOS is you have your different fan controls here, but you go into your AIO top 1 and AIO top 2, both the same. The only options you have are full mode and manual mode, which sets a static value. This means that those 2 ports don't have the ability to set a curve in the BIOS, which is a little bit frustrating. Another thing I noticed is going into your CPU fan configuration, if you do want to set curve up, you go manual mode, and you've got your different temperature levels, which is fine. But then you get down to your PWM signaling, and you've got values that look a little bit weird. You've got 51, 102, 154, and 255, which again, what they're doing is they're basing it off of a hexadecimal of 00 to FF, but it's not what typical user would expect to see there. In the tool section, it is nice to see that they have a space that you can save your overclocking profiles. It is very frustrating when you have done a whole bunch of work and you might need to reset your BIOS for whatever reason, and all of that has to be redone. So this gives you the option to save it to the board memory itself, or to go and save it directly to a USB drive. I'm going to set the B clock mode to be synchronous just so I can show off how little it takes to get the system stability and have the system crashing. Save changes, okay, system starting up again. You can see I have pre-configured the display here to show you a couple of stats about the CPU temperature and the CPU frequency here. It's telling you what we've done there in terms of CPU and GPU. I did notice with their software to control the screen that choosing the different stats that you could pick on there was a little bit janky. It gives you a little bit of polish on software. You do get 2 different zones that you can set to different stats, or you can go to different types of content, like clock. I don't know what you want to see an analog clock on your board, but there. Pixel time, which is more just kind of a pixel themed clock, and you got pixel level, which is what we had before, and symbol level, which just is some straight stats. So that's a custom section where I can go and add whatever images I want here. You can do animations or you can do images. We're going to start a set of turns, select some sort of load in there, and you can maybe see what's going on. We've got our B clock in the bottom left corner here, and because I changed the BIOS setting on those buttons, each button press is going to increase that by 0.1. So if I hit the B clock plus, you can see our bus speed is increasing. And this doesn't make large changes to your overall clock speed. It's talking about fractions of a percent per button press. Like getting up to 101, you're only increasing it by 1% off the multiplier. But when you're trying to push your hardware to its absolute fullest, you do want that level of adjustment. You want to get that tiny, tiny little bit more. Like I said earlier, this did have a world record for the fastest 9800X 3D speed, and the person who beat it by only 5 megahertz. So that would have been 1 or 2 clicks of this button. What I also said earlier is it's pretty easy to get system instability when you're playing around with B clock. Our B clock right now is 100.5 megahertz. Let's see how far we can get before it just completely freezes up. So we're going to bounce up to 101, 1.5, 1.6. I'm going to guess that it's going to crash very shortly here. Yeah, 1.2.78. I don't have a mouse anymore. I don't have a keyboard anymore. Fans down because the image is running. That's it. That's what the reset button for. It's nice that when you play around with buttons here, it's not writing that back to BIOS. So when you do reboot, you will get a stable clock. Now we check out the board. Let's talk about the price. It's a little bit complicated because it's really hard to find insurance pricing. Tom's hardware did have it pegged at $679 US. We also found it on eBay for like 12 or 1300 Canadian. It's a little bit up in there. Either way, it's not going to be the cheapest board around, which is fine. Comparable boards like the ROG Apex lineup is right around that $700 price range as well. So it's not out of the league where it's supposed to be from a competitor standpoint. With that being said as well, this is not the type of board that an average gamer will look at. This is a tool that has a specific purpose to be overclocking and to be pushing hardware. Like I said, you've got 2 RAM channels here instead of having to go 4. It does have some really beefy power delivery there that we didn't really touch on, but it's a feature that you're looking for when you're pushing your CPU to its absolute limit. Well, it is overclocking focused board. It will serve you very well if you're working within the constraints that you have of your set to. So it's the thing that will start your invest in platforms. So thank you for watching. If you like this type of thing, you might like the advanced cable I unboxed 2 months ago. It's a different take on your test bench that you use for an overclocking situation. I like this. So if you have any suggestions for hardware for me to take a look at, let me know.
It's a great question. So generally speaking, growth mindset is superior to fixed mindset.
Compared to fixed one, it's a great.
How good is having a growth mindset for your mental health?
Compared
holy fuck.
To a fixed one? It's a great question. So generally speaking, growth mindset is superior to fixed mindset. You know, growth mindset and fixed mindset, a lot of this research was done by Carol Dweck. So she had some really strong studies that suggest a growth mindset, which is not focusing on outcomes, but focusing on actions. Right? So what's more important, doing better on the next test or getting an A or getting a B? Focusing on your actions instead of being focused on performance is generally speaking healthier. The most well-known, oldest discussion of this topic is probably from the Bhagavad Gita. And in that, Krishna says, as a human being, you're entitled to your actions, not the outcomes of your actions. And that one of the quickest ways to both suck at life can have a lot of suffering is to focus on the outcomes of your actions instead of your actions. Literally, like what you control is like here. You don't control anything outside. Shifting from trying to control the outside world, which is like somewhat unresponsive to your efforts. So I think ultimately growth mindset is better and focus on your actions instead of outcomes.
Guys, this whole dumpster is loaded with Amazon boxes. Amazon return bag boxes, all bags. Amazon bags. What? Everything's loaded with Amazon bags. Sealed case, all sealed cases of Amazon bags. No way, there's like 10 of them. I take these. Should I take these? Am I taking these things? What? Those are nice size bags, dude. Taking them so I can use these. Anyways, I can't use them, right? Gold mine, dude. Take them.
Bags. That's weird. What? No. We just throw them away for the sake of throwing away, I guess. Yeah. I wonder. I don't know, strange idea or not, but what if it's just to avoid unnecessary waste? That could be like a way to just have a place where you can just throw shit you don't want anymore. But at the same time, it would not be quite ideal to be thrown in trash either. I don't know, I just throwing shit to the trash doesn't seem right. Not saying there should be laws for that, but at the same time. Stuff that it can still be totally used, just being wasted like that, quite literally wasted. No. I'm almost done with it. Man, this video keeps getting recommended to me all the time. Might as well watch now. Oh, my first. I don't want to know about it. Life in Maine. Maine. It's Maine. Nothing ever happens in Maine, for better or worse.
Oh my god, I'm gonna consume so much of these licenses. Hello, I would like to partake in the club and enjoy the drinks and festivities.
I'm gonna have to see some ID, sir.
Ah, yes, an ID. Well, it seems I forgot my driver's license and my government ID at home. Would it be possible to accept a gay license?
A gay
Now, you might be wondering how I got such a license. Well, it all started with a stupid haircut policy. So I was in a good mood that morning. I was listening to my favorite song while commuting. The breeze of wind ran through my hair elegantly as the jeep drove, and the morning sun kissed my cheeks tenderly. Nothing could ruin this day, I thought. I couldn't wait to greet the guard at school. She always welcomes students with a warm smile and tells us good morning and to have fun in class. I arrived and it was a different guard conversation. I thought, okay, new face. Maybe she isn't all that bad. I should be more open-minded and greet her with a smile. Good. You think I'm gonna let you in with that yee ass haircut? No, I was confused. This is the first time a guard at school actually cared about my hair being long. Long hair isn't allowed in my school. But the other guard wasn't too uptight about it. Well, it's just... Do you even know that it's standard haircut for males? Yeah, but... then she turns around to the other guard like, yeah, does this guy fit the standard? The other guard looked at her and he clearly didn't care. No. What the hell are you doing with your life, kid? And low-key, guys, I was about to cry. Like, genuinely, I was holding up the line because you have to get your bags checked before you can come in. Everyone was staring at me, and this middle-aged woman was treating my haircut like it owes her money or something. She saw this and eventually sighed and went, when are you getting a haircut? When are you getting
maybe next.
a haircut? Next week? Fine. Give me your ID. I'll give this to the guidance office until you get your hair sorted out. I was devastated. Keep in mind, my record was clean. My name wasn't even uttered to the guidance office before. I wasn't some delinquent. It's just my hair. The whole class period, I was sitting there like, I'm a good boy. I'm a good boy. Then my nonchalant redheaded little boy, we'll call him Jay, who also has long hair, came in class. Jay, how did you get past the guard?
Oh, she also told me to get a haircut, man. What are we gonna do, Jay? Long hair is everything to me. I take care of it like it's my own son. I don't want to cut off my son. Dude, I got you. So here's what you're gonna do, okay? After class, yeah, we go to the guidance office. We set the record straight with him. Yeah, by telling them we're raging homosexuals. Okay, so in the Philippines, the LGBTQ community gets a pass with long hair for some reason. So I guess it's an effective loophole. I mean, we both do look pretty. And pretty boys in the Philippines, they're more likely to be labeled as gays. So we all know straight guys don't do skincare and couldn't give a rat's ass about their appearance. Are you serious? Yes. So we waited outside the guidance office until they called us. A middle-aged man walked out and said, you two, come in.
Jay, being the badass he is, walked in first like he owned the place, while I followed cowardly behind him.
What seemed to be the issue here? The guard took our IDs just because our hair is long. I heard that's a load of bullshit.
Jay!
Long hair is for LGBTQ only. Are you two part of the LGBTQ community? Yeah. Oh yeah? What part? Bisexual? What about you?
Me? I'm also bisexual, and I prefer to dress androgynously, and that's why long hair is important to me.
Are you too sure? Because there have been cases where students pretend to be part of the LGBTQ community when they're not, just to have long hair.
Shit, he's on to us.
Yep, pretty sure.
fill out this form. It's a form which you will give to the principal, then he will sign once he evaluates whether you're actually gay or not. Excuse me, did I hear that right? An evaluation of being gay? I already had 5 tests that week. I didn't know I had to study for a gay test. What is the principal gonna do? Pull up a slideshow of hot, buff, oily men that for some reason he has, but he swears is to evaluate students. Like, okay, stare at this image for a while. As he pulls out a magnifying glass and a checklist to examine for my quote-unquote visible reactions about tent forming. Like, not sturdy enough, not gay, send his hair to the blog. Or, no, that's quite a tent you got there. I guess you're gay enough to keep your luscious locks. This, of course, is in the context of camping. Not at all what you're thinking, sheeple. Not even my time, so why do I care? You're gonna have to email his secretary to set up a meeting, preferably with your parents. If there's nothing else, you are dismissed. Oh, frick, we're gonna have to tell our parents, Jay. But hey, at least we could just tell them to play along. Cut his hair the next day. Okay, dude, what the flip? I'm not telling my mom, bro. He's gonna kill me. Plus, I don't care all that much about my long hair. I just did it for you, because you look genuinely stressed about losing your hair. Aw, you're still kind of a dick for not following through. Cry about it. What the fuck? So, I went to write the email by myself, and the secretary didn't reply. Yeah. Either she thinks the principal has better things to do, or it went to spam mail. Which, hey, I don't mind. I'll just tell the guard that the meeting is still being finalized. And now we're back in the original hypothetical skit at the start of the video. Which I guess doesn't make sense anymore since I didn't get a gay license, so technically I don't exist. So...
Bro. What Davey say about code? Yes. If it was like a military school. Yeah, those schools kind of exist depending on where you live. Fucking military school. It's sure, but it's not even that. Not even. Military schools for middle schoolers. Never seen such a thing in my life. Never. Never. Totally not. Ever seen. Middle schoolers, even high schoolers. Nope, that doesn't exist at all. Oh. Pretty much done. Sweat. Do it. Yeah. Well, no, it's just a matter of just in case. That was funny. Not refresh. No. No, refresh. Where's this? Boom. This is not a normal motherboard. Yep, that's pretty much it. I'll double check everything. That's all. This, and this, and this, and that, and this, and this. I don't know how much this. Oh yeah. Just forgot about this one. There, I didn't finish the I mean, I paused the footage, not I paused before finishing just in case stuff like this happens. But yeah.
While your vision of Maine might be remote hiking in the mountains, a slow coastal lifestyle, or even just a weekend or summer getaway, for the people who are from the area, we don't always do life in Maine this way. The reality is, there's a variety of reasons why people commonly choose to move out of state. And while we created this channel to educate you about living in the southern Maine area, we can't always just tell you about the positive aspects. In order to give you a raw, honest insight into life here, we have to tell you about the negative aspects as well. Now, if you were to search Maine coastal town aesthetic on Pinterest, you're going to see a lot of pictures of lighthouses on rocky coastlines, quaint downtown areas, and women wearing linen pants and striped navy sweaters. And to be honest, if you come to coastal southern Maine in the summer, life does look like that. But if you come here during any of the other 9 months of the year, I'd be lying if I said Maine looked anything like that. It's no secret that Maine is a huge vacation state. But let me tell you a little secret. Life here is not like your week-long annual trip to celebrate the 4th of July. So today, I'm not here to tell you about the broader aspects of the state like the cold weather. I'm going to dive into some of the deeper issues that people don't commonly talk about enough. So let's get into it. By the way, my name's Margaret. My dad, Michael, and I are born and raised Mainers and local real estate agents making videos to educate you about living in the southern Maine area. This channel is all about living in southern Maine, and if you're thinking about buying, selling, or relocating to the area, feel free to check out some of our free downloadable resources below. So why is everyone leaving Maine? Well, for one, there's not a whole lot of young people. Now, this is a fairly big topic of conversation for people who are still in, high school. People in high school, people that are college age. This is just kind of a topic of conversation that starts to get brought up. You start asking your friends, do you want to live in the state or do you want to move out of state? And for a lot of people, they want to move out of state and potentially come back, down the road. But for a lot of kids and young adults, they want to, move to the city, or they want to be around other young people, or they want to be able to go out. And, as far as going out in Maine goes, a lot of the businesses are unfortunately seasonal. Now, that's not necessarily the case if you go up to Portland, you can go out in Portland, really year round. But for those smaller towns, or for those smaller towns in Maine, especially ones that are along the coast that rely really heavily on tourism, a lot of them shut down for, a few months during the winter, or there's a lot fewer options to go out. And so that definitely sways people's decisions as well. Maine has an older population that takes up a huge chunk of our demographic. I can see if I can find, the exact statistics and insert them here, but it's fairly common knowledge that Maine has an older population. And so when young people are getting out of high school and college, they're trying to figure out where they want to move to. A lot of people are looking to connect with other people who are of similar ages and have the similar interests as them. And a lot of times when you're looking at the demographic of Maine, people start to get concerned if they're going to find that. Going off of that, the next thing I want to talk about is the fact that the pace of life in Maine is really slow. And if you're looking to move to somewhere that has a slow pace of life, if you're looking for a vacation house, if you're retiring, this might be a great thing for you. It might be something that you're looking for, and Maine might be a really great option. But for a lot of people who really like kind of the hustle and bustle of the city, this isn't really a great fit. So for people who are born in the area or move to the area and they're graduating high school or college, or just people that are really sick of how slow things move here and they want to move somewhere a little bit more populated where there's more things going on, where things aren't so seasonal, Maine being such a slow pace of life kind of state might not really be a great fit for people. And I've also known this to be a huge factor for why people don't want to live in the state. The next thing I want to talk about is the job market. Now, this is just as applicable as it is for somebody who's 18 years old as somebody who's 55 years old. The job market in Maine is smaller than it is in other areas. Maine has, maybe 1.5 million people in the entire state. There's fewer jobs in the state, whereas we have a lower population. We don't have a lot of big cities. For me, for example, I live in Wells. The biggest cities near me, Sanford has, 22,000 people. Biddeford has like 22,000 people. Saco's about the same. Portland is the biggest city in the entire state of Maine, about 30 minutes north of me, and that has about 67,000 people. And while that sounds like a lot, keep in mind that the bottom 2 counties of Maine are the most populated. We hold like, a third of the entire population of the state of Maine. So most of the people are down here. Further north than that, things get a little bit more sparse. But generally speaking, even though we have Portland near us, the job market is a lot smaller. So for people who live, for example, in Wells or Sanford, you're going to have a 30 to 45 minute commute up to Portland if you work in the city. Now, if you work across the border in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, depending on where you live in the general area, it could be another 30-minute commute. Now, if you live right over the border, it's 10 minutes. But if you're going to be driving into the city, which a lot of people are, you have to think about your commute time when you're moving to the area if you already have a job lined up. Now, there are a lot of people that also drive all the way into Boston for work every day. That's about an hour and a half. If you live in coastal York County, Maine, and you can get right on the highway fairly easily, it's going to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours if you live a little bit more inland. So that's that's a huge commute. But for certain people who have very specific or niche jobs, or they have a great job but it's in the city, keep in mind your commute is going to be fairly long. It's not like that for everybody. Don't get me wrong. We still have tons of small local businesses. But as far as having options to apply for whatever field you work in, you might have to look in a fairly large radius, especially if you have a really niche job. And that's again another deterring factor for younger people who are thinking about moving to Maine, or for people who lived in Maine their entire lives, why they want to move out of state. The job market is not as good as it is in maybe some of the other neighboring states. And lastly, let's talk about the cost of living in Maine. Maine is expensive. New England in general is kind of notoriously one of the more expensive areas of the country to live. So Maine, fortunately, is the least expensive of the New England states to live in. So if you're moving up here for work, if you have to, if you're relocating, or if you just really want to live in New England and you're looking for the most affordable option, that would be Maine. But if you're coming from somewhere like Texas, be prepared for kind of a shock as far as how high the cost of living is here, how high the prices of real estate are. It's just definitely something that you have to get kind of used to. For me, as somebody who was born and raised in the area, I'm used to it, right? Like the prices of everything around me don't really faze me because it's how it's been my entire life. But for my friends who live out of state, or for my friends specifically who live out of New England, they think, it's kind of outrageous. So for people who, live out of state and they think that these prices are really outrageous, it kind of depends on where in the country you're from, how much you're used to paying for different things. It might be more of a shock to you than it is for other people, but it definitely is, a huge reason for why a lot of people, regardless of your age, choose to move out of state because the cost of living is higher than a lot of other parts of the country. While there are a bunch of different reasons why people choose to leave the state of Maine, those are just a few of the main contributors that I've noticed as somebody who grew up here and works in real estate and works with people, moving to and from the state constantly. Making a move anywhere is not a decision that you should be taking lightly, and it's good to do your research on, all of the good and bad aspects of the state, not even just, the cost of living or the job market, but even little things too that we didn't cover today, such as, is the weather different than what I'm used to, experiencing all 4 seasons, what kind of wildlife, bugs, ticks, what are you going to experience up here? What does day-to-day life look like? All of that's really important to research ahead of time, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. All of our information is down below, and we'll see you next time.
There's an extra problem in living in Maine. That is, of course, the online video games. Just look at it. The most lag for living too far from the servers. If you were living somewhere in the middle along the way, your lag will be 20 milliseconds, 30 milliseconds. Here in Message, I get about 40 milliseconds in average on games that I play. So I imagine Maine will be 50 milliseconds, maybe even 60 milliseconds of delay. So imagine getting close to the 100 mark. Yeah, it'll be kind of annoying. It's already kind of annoying to get to about 40, 50 milliseconds here. when I play in Overwatch, for example, it's a game that people cannot self-host servers like TF2, so it's problematic. Oh, yep. So yeah, online video games is kind of a problem as well. But if you don't care about video games, whatever. Mm. The least amount of lag that I ever gotten was from the internet. The hotel internet was like literally Wi-Fi. I was getting about 30 milliseconds. I was close to Niagara. 30 milliseconds. I never got as better lag than that. Better latency. Never again. At least in Overwatch, if war games are done, I cannot tell how better maybe. Because there are no servers around the Northeast, sadly. Somehow there isn't. If there is, somehow it's sluggish as fuck. Oh yeah.